The place card was sitting beside a stack of folded black napkins near the service entrance. Every other card I could see had a person's name on it. Mine had one word: vendor. I picked it up and turned it over, thinking maybe my name was on the other side. It wasn't. The Aurora Harbor room was already filling with voices. Through the windows, I could see the gray water beyond the harbor and the low clouds pressing against the mountains. Matthew was across the room talking to two people from Caitlin's family. He looked handsome in the dark blue jacket Vernon had helped him choose years earlier. Then Caitlin came through the kitchen door carrying a cake knife. She set it in front of me. "Meredith, the catering staff needs to stay focused on the guests," she said. "Could you serve the cake?" She didn't whisper. People at the nearest family table heard her. Matthew looked over. His eyes went first to the knife, then to the card in my hand. For 1 second, I thought he would finally say something. Instead, he walked over and lowered his voice. "Mom, can you just help tonight? Please? I don't want this to get uncomfortable." I looked down at that card again. 4 months earlier, none of this had seemed possible. I was 70 and had been living alone for 4 years. Vernon died in 2022, and after that, the house on Glacier Highway became too quiet in ways I hadn't expected. It wasn't only nighttime. Nighttime was obvious. It was the quiet at 10 in the morning when I made too much coffee. It was reaching for the phone when the snow started, because Vernon always wanted to discuss whether Matthew had put the right tires on his truck. Vernon worried about practical things: roofs, brakes, whether everyone had eaten. He was 72 when he died. He'd spent 38 years making sure Matthew and I never had to wonder whether he would show up. Sometimes he arrived early and sat in the car because he didn't want to rush us. After he was gone, Matthew called every Sunday. At first, those calls lasted close to an hour, then half an hour. By the 4th year, 10 minutes had become normal. He would say, "Everything good over there, Mom?" I would say, "Everything's fine." Then he would tell me what needed fixing in his garage or where he and Caitlin had eaten dinner. I learned a lot about their lives in past tense. Caitlin had been polite to me while they were dating. She remembered my birthday. She brought flowers at Christmas. She also had a way of making every visit feel scheduled, even when it wasn't. She would check her phone and say, "We should probably get moving." Matthew always got moving. Still, when he called one Sunday and told me they were engaged, I cried into my coffee. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm happy," I said. "Give me a minute." Caitlin's voice came through the speaker. "She's crying, isn't she?" Matthew laughed. "Of course she is." I heard Caitlin laugh too, and for that moment, I felt included. I asked when they planned to marry. "Late summer," Matthew said. "We found a place in Juneau, the Aurora Harbor room," Caitlin added. "If we can make the numbers work." I knew the room. Vernon and I had attended an anniversary dinner there once. It wasn't enormous, but the windows looked over the harbor and the food had been good. "That sounds lovely," I said. "It's beautiful," Caitlin replied. "It's just more than we expected." Matthew went quiet. I knew that silence. He'd used it as a boy when he wanted something but hated asking. "What's the problem?" I said. "We'll figure it out," he answered quickly. Caitlin didn't say anything. I asked them to come for dinner that Thursday. I made pot roast and set out the good plates. Matthew used to tease me about those plates because I kept them in a cabinet most of the year. "What are we saving them for?" Vernon once asked. "An occasion," I told him. "This is Thursday." Thursday survived all week. After that, we used the good plates more often. That evening, Matthew and Caitlin arrived carrying a binder full of estimates. Caitlin placed it beside her chair, but didn't open it until I asked. They had enough saved for most of the wedding. The problem was the catering reservation. North Shore Events handled both the rehearsal dinner and the reception at the Aurora Harbor room. "The first installment is $6,000, Matthew said. Then the reception balance is due after the rehearsal." "How much is the balance?" He rubbed the back of his neck. $24,000. I didn't answer immediately. I had the money, but that didn't make it a small amount. Caitlin leaned forward. "We're not asking you to cover the whole wedding." Just the catering would change everything. We could keep our savings for the rest. Matthew said, "We can pick somewhere cheaper." She looked at him. "We already discussed that?" "I know. I'm telling Mom we have options." I folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. Vernon had left things in good order. We weren't wealthy, but the house was paid for. I had savings. I also knew what he would have said. "Feed the people. Make sure everyone is eaten." "I'll pay the catering," I said. Matthew stared at me. "Mom, that's too much. It's my offer." He came around the table and put both arms around me. I could still remember the weight of his head against my shoulder when he said, "Thank you." Caitlin hugged me next. "You have no idea what this means," she said. I believed her. The following week, I met Jonathan Carrillo from North Shore Events at the venue. He was 50, calm, and careful with details. He walked me through the rehearsal room first, then the reception setup. Caitlin joined us by video because she had a work meeting. Matthew said he couldn't leave the office. Jonathan showed me the service entrance, the kitchen, and the tables that would face the windows. "The person paying must be the client of record," he explained. "That means all final approvals come through you." "That's fine," I said. He opened the master catering agreement and marked the important sections with small paper tabs. I read every page. Vernon used to joke that I could turn a grocery coupon into a research project. I didn't like signing things I hadn't read. One section explained the payment schedule. I would pay $6,000 to reserve the services. The remaining $24,000 had to be paid by 8 o'clock after the rehearsal dinner. Another section covered cancellation. If I canceled before that deadline, North Shore Events would keep the first installment. The remaining balance would no longer be my responsibility. I pointed to it. So if plans change, I lose the $6,000. "That's correct," Jonathan said. "But you wouldn't owe the final installment. And nobody else can authorize that payment from me?" "No, you're the sole client." I initialed the section. Caitlin's face was visible on Jonathan's tablet. "Everything's going forward," she said. "We're not canceling." Jonathan gave a polite smile. I still explained the terms. I signed the agreement and paid the first installment. Jonathan handed me a printed copy in a dark blue folder. I drove home with it on the passenger seat. Once inside, I placed it in the locked drawer of my desk. That was where Vernon and I had kept insurance papers, the deed to the house, and anything else that shouldn't disappear under a grocery list. At first, wedding planning gave Matthew more reasons to call. He asked whether I preferred salmon or chicken. He sent pictures of tablecloth colors. Caitlin texted me 3 photographs of flower arrangements and asked which looked best. I chose the simplest one. She replied, "That's what Matthew picked." It felt like a small connection. I saved the message. About 2 weeks later, Caitlin asked me to collect sample linens from a shop near downtown. I was already going that direction, so I agreed. The woman at the shop handed me 2 large bags. "Caitlin said you're helping with supplies," she said. "I'm the groom's mother." The woman smiled. "Of course." I carried the bags to my car and didn't think much of it. Then Caitlin asked me to pick up printed menus. 3 days later, she wanted me to return a box of candle holders because the color was wrong. "Couldn't the shop collect them?" I asked. "They charge for that," she said. "You're closer." I wasn't closer. I lived farther from the shop than she did. Still, I returned them. I told myself weddings were busy. I told myself she trusted me. Being useful wasn't the same thing as being used. Then Matthew and Caitlin had a planning dinner with the venue. I learned about it afterward when Matthew mentioned the dessert selection. "What dinner?" I asked. There was a pause. "Just a meeting with Jonathan." I didn't know about it. Caitlin thought it would be easier with fewer people. I stood at my kitchen counter with the phone against my ear. My coffee had gone cold. I'm the client on the catering agreement. I know, Mom. Then why wasn't I invited to a catering meeting? It was mostly wedding stuff. That doesn't answer me. He sighed. We're trying to keep things simple. I waited for him to say more. He didn't. The next morning, Caitlin sent me a list. Not a greeting. A list. Cake boxes. Ribbon. Extra serving tongs. Printed labels. Underneath it, she wrote, "Can you have these at the venue by Friday?" I called her. Why am I buying serving tongs? They're backups. North Shore provides serving equipment. They do, but I want extras. Did Jonathan ask for them? No, I did. I looked at the list again. What exactly do you think my role is here? She laughed lightly as if I'd made things awkward on purpose. You said you wanted to help. I offered to pay for the catering, and we appreciate that. That wasn't an offer to run supplies. Her voice changed. It stayed soft, but the warmth went out of it. Meredith, everyone is doing something. What is your mother doing? Another pause. She's helping me with personal things, such as dress details, family arrangements. It's different. There it was, family arrangements. I set the list beside my mug. I'm not picking up these items. Seriously? Yes, it's one trip. Then you can make it. She was silent long enough for me to hear someone speaking in the room with her. Then she said, "I'll tell Matthew. Please do." She ended the call without saying goodbye. An hour later, Matthew phoned. "Mom, what happened with Caitlin? She asked me to buy supplies. I said no. She says you agreed to help with catering costs. Can you please not split hairs right now?" I opened the drawer of my desk and took out the blue folder. $24,000 is not a hair, Matthew. I didn't mean the money. Neither did I. He breathed into the phone. What does that mean? It means I'm your mother. I'm not the extra person who collects whatever Caitlin forgot. She doesn't see you that way. Then she should have no trouble treating me differently. He lowered his voice. She's stressed. So am I. Can you just cooperate until the wedding is over? I ran my finger along the tab beside the payment section. Are you asking me to keep the money ready? Of course. The deadline is after the rehearsal. And besides the money, I'm asking you not to make everything harder. I closed the folder. I need you to correct this, Matthew. Correct what? The way she's treating me. He didn't answer. I could hear him tapping something, probably a pen against his desk. Finally, he said, "I'll talk to her, not later, today." Okay. After we hung up, I emailed Jonathan. I didn't accuse anyone. I asked one plain question. Does my agreement require me to provide supplies or perform any event duties? His reply came before lunch. No. North Shore Events provides all contracted service and equipment. As client, your responsibility is limited to approvals and payment. I printed the email and placed it inside the blue folder. Then I crossed every item off Caitlin's list and left the paper on my kitchen table. Matthew didn't call that evening. At 9, he sent a message. Talk to her. It's handled. I read it twice. What did you tell her? I wrote. The little dots appeared, disappeared, then came back. I told her not to worry about the supplies. That wasn't what I had asked him to correct. I typed 3 different replies and erased all of them. Finally, I wrote, "Did you discuss how she's treating me?" He didn't answer. The next morning, I took Caitlin's list off the table. I almost threw it away. Instead, I folded it and put it in the blue folder with Jonathan's email. I told myself I was keeping records because money was involved. The truth was less flattering. I wanted proof that I wasn't being difficult. That Sunday, I set my phone beside my breakfast plate. Matthew usually called around 10. At 10:15, I rinsed my cup. At 10:30, I wiped the counter. By 11, I had carried the phone through every room in the house. I called him at 11:20. He answered after 4 rings. "Hey, Mom, did I catch you at a bad time?" "No, we're just getting ready to go out. I heard a cabinet close. You didn't call." "I was going to." "Today?" He exhaled. "Yes, today." Caitlin said something in the background. Matthew covered the phone, but not well enough. "I'm talking to her now." I stood beside the living room window. Rain ran down the glass in narrow lines. "How did your conversation go?" I asked. "What conversation?" "With Caitlin." "Oh, fine." "What did she say?" "She said she didn't realize the errands bothered you." "They didn't bother me at first." "I know. They started bothering me when I realized errands were the only part of the wedding you included me in." He became quiet. "Mom, that's not fair. Then tell me what I've been included in. You chose the flowers. I answered a text. You came to the venue to sign the agreement. That still counts. No, Matthew. Paying isn't participating. I heard Caitlin more clearly then. We're going to be late. Matthew said, I have to go. Where are you going? Brunch. With whom? Another pause. Just wedding people. I put my hand on the windowsill. Am I not wedding people? It's the ceremony group. I'm your mother. I know that. Do they? He lowered his voice. Please don't do this right now. Do what? Make me choose every word. I'm asking ordinary questions. Caitlin's already upset. So you stopped calling me. I didn't stop calling you. You skipped today. One Sunday, Mom. I looked at the clock. 11:27. He was right. It was one Sunday. That was what made me feel foolish. All right, I said. I'll call tonight. He didn't. On Monday afternoon, he came to my house without Caitlin. I saw his truck pull into the driveway while I was sorting mail. I opened the door before he knocked. Is everything okay? Yeah. I was nearby. He wasn't. His office was in the other direction. He stepped inside and took off his wet jacket. I went to the kitchen and filled the kettle. I can't stay long, he said. Tea doesn't take long. He followed me anyway. I had made vegetable soup that morning. I put a bowl in front of him before he could refuse. He ate 3 spoonfuls standing at the counter, then sat down. That was still my Matthew. He could arrive in a hurry and be delayed by soup. Did you really come by because you were nearby? I asked. He looked into the bowl. I wanted to talk without everybody getting worked up. Everybody? You and Caitlin. I wasn't worked up. You were upset. Those aren't the same thing. He nodded, though I wasn't sure he agreed. I poured my tea. What happened after our call? She thinks you don't like her. That's convenient. Mom, I asked for a place in my son's wedding. She heard that I don't like her. She feels judged by you. When did I judge her? She said you questioned everything on the list. I questioned serving tongs. She spent a lot of time planning all this. I know. And she wants it a certain way. I know that too. He pushed a piece of carrot around his bowl. She said you offered to help wherever needed. I never said those words. You said you wanted to help. I said I would pay for catering. He rubbed his forehead. That's probably how she understood it. Did you understand it that way? No. The answer came quickly. I set down my cup. Then why didn't you tell her? He leaned back. Because it didn't seem like a big deal. It was small enough for you to ignore because I was the one doing it. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He stared toward the hallway. On the wall was a framed photograph of him with Vernon at the harbor. Both of them had their caps pushed back. Vernon was holding up a fish. Matthew was pretending to measure it with his hands. After Vernon died, Matthew came every Saturday for 2 months. He repaired a loose porch rail. He cleared boxes from the garage. Sometimes he just sat at the kitchen table and talked about his father. Then Caitlin began joining him. Saturday became every other Saturday. After a while, visits happened when something needed to be collected. A ladder, a cooler, Vernon's socket set. Each time I made food. Each time I acted pleased that they had stopped. I was pleased. That was the problem. Matthew picked up his spoon again. Caitlin wants to have dinner here Wednesday, he said. Here? If you're okay with it? Whose idea was that? Does it matter? Yes. He gave me a tired look. Mine. I nodded. Wednesday is fine. He finished the soup and carried his bowl to the sink. Before leaving, he kissed my cheek. We're all family, he said. We need to stop keeping score. I watched him walk to his truck. The strange thing was, I hadn't been keeping score. If I had, I might have noticed the pattern sooner. Wednesday evening, Caitlin arrived holding the wedding binder in a white paper bag. Matthew carried a bottle of wine. Caitlin kissed the air near my cheek. I brought dessert. That was kind. It's from the bakery doing the cake. She put the bag on the counter and opened her binder at my table before I served dinner. I don't want things to be weird, she said. Neither do I. I've never tried to make you feel like staff. Matthew looked at me as if this settled it. I asked. What have you tried to make me feel like? Her smile tightened. Family. In what way? I don't understand the question. What family part of the wedding includes me? She looked at Matthew. He reached for his water glass. Caitlin said, You're invited to the wedding. So is everyone else on the guest list. Meredith, I'm trying to make peace. I'm trying to understand my place. You're Matthew's mother. That's a description. What does it mean to you? Matthew interrupted. Can we eat first? We did. I had roasted chicken and potatoes. Caitlin complimented the potatoes twice. Matthew talked about work. Nobody mentioned the wedding until I brought out the bakery cake. Caitlin cut 3 narrow pieces. My mother is helping me get dressed, she said, if that's what you're asking. I didn't ask about your mother. She's also handling the ceremony flowers and the family photographs. Will I be in the family photographs? Matthew said, Of course. Caitlin looked down at her plate. I noticed. Which photographs? I asked. All the normal ones, Matthew said. Have you made a list? Caitlin closed the cake box. The photographer has a list. Am I on it? She gave a small laugh. I don't have it memorized. I waited. Matthew reached over and touched her wrist. Caitlin. She pulled the binder toward her and opened a pocket near the back. Inside was a printed schedule. She ran her finger down the page. Bride with parents. Groom with bride's parents. Both families. Wedding party. What does both families mean? It means both families. Is my name there? This is why I didn't want to get into every detail. Matthew took the paper from her. He read it, then turned it over. Mom isn't listed. Caitlin's face went still. She's included under groom's family. There isn't a groom's family line, he said. It says both families. That comes after bride with parents. Then we'll add it. She took a pen from the binder and wrote something on the schedule. There, Meredith with bride and groom. She slid the paper toward me. My name was squeezed between 2 printed lines. It was a small thing. Still, it was the first piece of the wedding that had changed because I asked a direct question. I looked at Matthew. He kept his eyes on the schedule. Thank you, I said. Caitlin sat back. See? This could have been easy. I almost let that sentence pass. You had the list before tonight? Yes. Did you notice I wasn't named? I assumed the photographer understood. Did you notice? I asked again. She pressed her lips together. Yes. Matthew looked at her. Caitlin. I was going to fix it. When? Before the wedding. He put the paper down. You should have told me. She turned toward him. Are you seriously making this a thing? My mother should be on the photo list. I just added her. Because she asked. They went quiet. There was my micro payoff, though it didn't feel pleasant. Matthew had finally corrected one thing in front of me. He hadn't waited until they were alone. He hadn't told me to let it go. Then Caitlin's eyes filled. I feel like I can't do anything right in this house. Matthew's shoulders dropped. That's not what I said. You're both sitting there questioning me. I folded the schedule and set it beside the binder. I asked one question. You asked 10 versions of the same question because you wouldn't answer the first one. Matthew pushed back his chair. Let's take a breath. Caitlin wiped beneath one eye. I came here to apologize. You haven't apologized, I said. She stared at me. I said I didn't want things to be weird. That isn't an apology. Matthew said my name quietly. I looked at him. He looked away first. Caitlin stood and carried her plate to the counter. I'm sorry the errands made you feel unappreciated. It was close enough to an apology that the old version of me wanted to accept it. That version of me wanted them to stay for another cup of coffee. She wanted Wednesday dinner to become a habit. So I said, thank you. Caitlin sat down again. Her expression relaxed. Then she opened the binder. There is one thing you could help with from home. Matthew closed his eyes. She pulled out a stack of printed labels. They need to go on the welcome bags. There aren't many. There were more than 100. I looked at him. He said, You don't have to. Caitlin's hand remained on the stack. "It's fine," I said. "Leave them." Her smile returned immediately. After they left, I carried the labels into the living room. I sat with them on my lap and turned on the lamp beside Vernon's chair. The labels had to be placed straight across the front of small paper bags. Caitlin had included a photograph showing the correct position. I worked for nearly 2 hours. At first, I told myself I was doing it because she had apologized. Then I admitted I was doing it because Matthew had stayed for coffee. He had told me about work. He had laughed when I reminded him how Vernon used to burn toast and scrape it over the sink. I had traded an evening of work for an evening with my son, and everybody involved seemed to understand that except me. The next afternoon, I drove the finished bags to the Aurora Harbor Room. Jonathan met me near the venue office. "You didn't need to bring these personally," he said. "Caitlin left them with me." He looked at the labels. "She told our staff you were helping wherever needed." I held the box against my coat. Those were her exact words? "Yes. Is there a problem?" I never agreed to that role. His face changed. "I'm sorry. I understood that you were coordinating family support. I'm not coordinating anything. I'm the groom's mother and I'm your client." "Understood." He opened the office door and took the box from me. "I'll correct our contact notes. No one on my staff will assign you work. Thank you." He went to his computer while I stood beside the desk. I watched him remove a line from the event file. Then he turned the screen enough for me to read it. Meredith Day, sole client and payment contact. No service duties. That's accurate. When I got home, I texted Matthew. Jonathan confirmed Caitlin described me as someone who would help wherever needed. He has corrected the venue record. Matthew called within a minute. "Why did you go to Jonathan to deliver the bags? You finished those?" "Yes. I told you that you didn't have to, but you knew I would." He said nothing. I sat at the kitchen table, looking at the empty place where the stack had been. "Matthew, when was the last time you came here because you wanted to see me?" "Come on, Mom. I'm not accusing you. I'm asking. You know I'm busy. That isn't an answer." His voice softened. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth." The silence lasted so long that I stopped watching the clock. Finally, he said, "I guess I got used to you always being available." I pressed my thumb against the edge of the table. "So did I said. He let out a slow breath. "I didn't mean for that to happen. I know." "That sounds worse." "It is worse." He went quiet again. I wasn't trying to trap him. I wanted to hear whether he understood the difference. A person can take advantage of you without planning it. Sometimes they just stop noticing the cost because you keep paying it. "I'll come by Saturday," he said. "Do you need anything?" "No." "Are you picking something up?" "No, Mom. I'll come to see you." "All right." After we hung up, I opened a notebook from the kitchen drawer. Vernon used to keep lists in it. Furnace filters, tire appointments, the date he sealed the deck. There were several blank pages left. I wrote Wednesday's date. Under it, I listed what had happened. Caitlin knew I wasn't on the photograph list. Matthew hadn't known. My name was added only after I asked. Caitlin told North Shore I would help wherever needed. I had never agreed to that. I read the list once. Then I added one more line. Stop guessing. Ask direct questions. The next morning, Caitlin sent me a photograph of 6 boxes filled with folded place cards. "Can you alphabetize these for the rehearsal and reception?" I looked at the message while standing in the grocery store parking lot. A week earlier, I would have said yes before starting my car. Instead, I wrote, "Does North Shore handle placement of the cards?" She answered immediately, "They place them. We have to organize them. Then you and Matthew should organize them." 3 minutes passed. "It would take you less than an hour. I'm not available." I put the phone in my purse and drove home. That was the first wedding request I refused without explaining myself. Nothing terrible happened. The road didn't open beneath my car. Matthew didn't call. I made lunch. I watered the plant above the kitchen sink. Then I sat at my desk and opened the blue folder. Jonathan's email said North Shore provided contracted service and equipment. It didn't mention place cards. I could have left it there. Instead, I called him. Am I interrupting anything? No. What can I do for you? I have a question about the rehearsal seating. All right. Who is responsible for organizing the place cards? The couple gives us the assignments. My staff places the cards, so there is no reason for me to sort them, not unless you volunteered. I didn't. He paused. I'll make sure my team understands. Thank you. I also want the current seating layout, the rehearsal or reception. Both. There was a small silence. Has Caitlin not sent them to you? No. I assumed she had. You're listed as the client contact. Please send them directly. I'll do that now. The email arrived while we were still speaking. It contained 2 attachments and a short event schedule. I opened the rehearsal layout first. There were 9 round tables. One near the windows was labeled Family Table. My name appeared there with Matthew, Caitlin, and Caitlin's parents. 2 other seats were marked for ceremony participants. I felt foolish for the relief that came over me. My shoulders loosened. I had been included after all. Then I opened the reception layout. My name was at a table near the dance floor with several members of Matthew's family. I recognized the names. Nothing about it seemed unusual. When was this prepared? I asked. The rehearsal layout was updated yesterday morning. The reception layout was updated last week. Who made the changes? Caitlin submitted them. Was I always at the family table? He checked. No. The first version had open seating. The current version assigns you there. That surprised me. So she added me? That's what the record shows. For a moment, I wondered whether I had judged her too quickly. Maybe the photograph list had been an oversight. Maybe she had corrected more than she admitted. Is this the final version? Jonathan hesitated. There is a revision pending. What revision? Caitlin asked. To change 2 rehearsal assignments this morning. I haven't entered it yet. Am I one of them? Yes. The relief left as quickly as it came. Where did she move me? To table 4. I looked at the diagram. Table 4 sat along the inside wall, close to the service corridor. Who is at that table? She hasn't completed it. Who is taking my seat at the family table? One of the ceremony readers. There are already 2 ceremony participants there. Yes. Who is taking the other seat? He cleared his throat. Another member of the ceremony group. Did she explain why? No. I kept my voice level. Can she change the seating without my approval? The couple controls guest assignments. You control catering approvals and payment. I usually don't interfere with family seating. That makes sense. I can hold the revision if there's a dispute. No, don't hold it. All right. Please send me the request as submitted. He did. Caitlin's message was brief. Move Meredith from family table to table 4. Need both seats for people participating in ceremony. Final names to follow, both seats. I read that line again. She wasn't only moving me, she was also treating the chair beside me as something I controlled, though no second guest had been assigned to it. I thanked Jonathan and ended the call. Then I called Matthew. He answered from his office. Is everything okay? I received the seating layouts. From who? Jonathan. Why? Because I asked. He lowered his voice. Mom, you don't need to manage seating. I'm not managing it. I'm looking at where I'm sitting. I don't know anything about that. You were at the family table with Caitlin and her parents. I assume so. I was there too. Good. She removed me this morning. He didn't respond. Did you hear me? Yes. She moved me to table 4. Maybe she's still arranging things. She told Jonathan she needed my seat. I'll ask her. Did you know about the change? No. His answer sounded honest. Did you know she asked me to organize place cards? No. Do you know what I'm included in? Mom, I'm at work. That isn't what I asked. I don't have every detail in front of me. You don't seem to have any detail that concerns me. That's not fair. Then answer one question. What is my role at the rehearsal dinner? You're my mother. We already had that conversation. He sighed. You come. You eat. You meet people. At table 4. Tables don't mean anything, then why did Caitlin need mine? He was silent. Someone spoke near him. He said, "Give me a minute." Then I heard a door close. "I'll talk to her," he said. "I want you to call me afterward." "I will." "Today?" "Yes." He called at 6:30. I was taking a pan from the oven. I set it on the stove and answered. "I spoke to her," he said. "What did she tell you? She needs the family table seats for people involved in the ceremony." That's what she told Jonathan. "She says the table isn't really a family table. It is labeled family table. It's just a label on the diagram." I turned off the oven. "Who is replacing me? I don't know their names." "Are they family?" "That's not the point. It's exactly the point. They have jobs during the ceremony. She wants everyone together so they can go over the timing. At dinner? For a few minutes. Then they can stand beside the table for a few minutes." He groaned softly. "Why are you making this so hard?" "I didn't move anyone. It's one seat. It's my seat. You still have a place." At an unfinished table by the service corridor. He didn't deny it. I leaned against the counter. "Did you ask her to put me back?" I asked if there was another option. "What did she say?" "She said no." "And what did you say?" "I told her I didn't like it." "But you accepted it. We're less than a month from the wedding. I'm trying to keep things calm." "For whom?" "For everybody." "No, not everybody." He became quiet. I could hear traffic through his phone. Finally, he said, "Do you want me to start a fight over a chair? I want you to care why she moved your mother before you worry whether she gets angry. That's not a fair choice. I didn't create the choice." He spoke more softly. "I do care. Privately." "What does that mean?" "You agree with me when Caitlin can't hear you. Then you ask me to accept whatever she decided. I told her I didn't like it. Did you tell her to change it?" "No." I let the silence stay between us. The pan on the stove clicked as the metal cooled. Matthew said, "She'll call you." "I don't need her to call and explain why someone else matters more. That isn't what this is." "Then what is it?" "It's logistics." I looked through the doorway toward the desk. The blue folder was still open beside my notebook. "Logistics have been doing a lot of personal work lately. Please just hear her out. I've been hearing both of you out for months. Mom, I'm not discussing the seating with her tonight. She's trying to fix it. She could fix it by changing the layout. She can't. She can. She won't." Matthew didn't speak. That was the inconsistency I had needed confirmed. Caitlin wasn't scrambling because she lacked options. She had chosen which person could be moved without consequence. Until then, I had wanted a larger part in the wedding. I had wanted planning calls, photographs, and a chair beside my son. Standing in my kitchen, I understood that asking for more tasks or more information wouldn't give me that. I didn't need a larger role in Caitlin's plan. I needed Matthew to acknowledge the role I already had. "I'm going to ask you something," I said. "Okay. If I weren't paying North Shore, would you be asking me to accept this?" He answered too quickly. "That has nothing to do with it." "Then why do you keep mentioning the payment when I say no to an errand?" "I don't. You asked me to cooperate and keep the money ready. I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" I meant, we're all depending on each other. What are you depending on Caitlin to do?" He didn't answer. "What is she depending on you to do?" "Mom, stop. What are either of you providing me? This is a wedding, not a transaction." I looked at the agreement. It became a transaction when my clearest place was on the payment page. That's not true. "Then show me." "How?" "Handle the seating without asking me to disappear quietly." He took a breath. "I'll see what I can do." "No." "Decide what you'll do." "I can't promise she'll change it. I didn't ask what she would do." He was silent again. I had spent 4 years accepting the version of him that arrived when he needed something. I had called it closeness because the other possibility hurt more. Now I had asked for one action that didn't benefit him financially. He couldn't give me an answer. "I have to go," he said. "I know. I'll talk to you tomorrow." After the call, I ate dinner at the kitchen table. The potatoes were overcooked, but I finished them. Then I opened my notebook. I wrote that Caitlin had moved me from the family table. I wrote her stated reason. I wrote that Matthew knew and wouldn't require her to change it. Under that, I copied the sentence from Jonathan's email. Move Meredith from family table to table 4. I didn't need the sentence as proof for anyone else. I needed it because I had a habit of softening things overnight. At 8:15, Caitlin called. I let it ring. She called again. Then she sent a message. Matthew says you're upset about the seating. We need to discuss expectations. I read it once and place the phone face down. The next morning, I replied, I'll discuss my place with both of you together. I won't accept separate explanations. She didn't answer, but Jonathan did. He copied all 3 of us on a new email. Per client request, Meredith Day will receive all catering schedules, revisions, and approval requests going forward. The deliberate part had worked. I had recovered access to an event I was funding. The cost arrived beneath Jonathan's signature. Final catering review will take place at the Aurora Harbor Room next Thursday. Client approval is required. 10 minutes later, Matthew wrote, Was this necessary? I answered yes. Then Caitlin replied to everyone, Fine. We'll all be there. Thursday came with hard rain and low clouds over the harbor. I arrived 10 minutes early. Jonathan had set out water, printed schedules, and 3 copies of the menu. A cardboard seating box sat on the end of the table. Caitlin entered carrying her binder. Matthew followed with 2 coffees. He handed one to her and gave me an apologetic smile. I didn't know if you wanted anything. That's all right. Jonathan waited until we sat down. We'll confirm the guest count first, he said, then the menu, service schedule, and room access. Caitlin opened her binder. I've already reviewed everything. Jonathan looked at me. I still need the client's approval. Her pen stopped moving. Meredith is fine with what we chose. Jonathan kept his eyes on me. Are you? I haven't seen the final menu. He passed me a copy. Caitlin leaned back in her chair. Matthew took a drink of coffee and studied the table. The menu was mostly what we had discussed. Salmon, roasted chicken, potatoes, vegetables, and 2 desserts at the reception. The rehearsal dinner had a smaller selection. I noticed an added coffee station near the ballroom entrance. Was this in the original price? Jonathan shook his head. It was added last week. There's no extra charge because we adjusted the beverage setup. Who requested it? I did, Caitlin said. People will want coffee after dinner. That's reasonable. She seemed surprised that I agreed. Jonathan made a note. We moved through the guest counts. Caitlin answered quickly. Each time, Jonathan looked at me before marking anything final. I approved the numbers. I wasn't trying to interfere. I wanted the food ordered correctly. That was what I had agreed to fund. When we reached the service schedule, Jonathan turned to a page with contact assignments. My staff needs 1 family contact during setup, he said. Someone who can answer non-catering questions. Caitlin, I said. She looked at me. I'll be getting ready. Then Matthew. I'll be with the ceremony group, he replied. Jonathan glanced at his page. We currently have Meredith listed. I didn't agree to that, I said. Caitlin tapped her pen against the binder. It's only for simple questions. What kind of questions? Where things go. Whether something looks right. I won't know your answers. You have the schedule. I received it 4 days ago. Matthew shifted in his chair. Maybe we can find someone else. Caitlin looked at him. Who? I don't know. That's the problem. Jonathan raised one hand slightly. My floor lead can handle room setup. We only need a family contact for personal items. What personal items? I asked. The welcome bags, place cards, photographs, and anything brought in from outside. The welcome bags are already here. Yes, the place cards are in that box. Yes, the photographer handles photographs. Jonathan nodded. Then what remains? He looked at Caitlin. She opened a divider in her binder. There are some things coming later, such as, I asked, decorative items. Who is bringing them? I was hoping you could. No. The word came out without effort. Caitlin closed the divider. We haven't even discussed what they are. It doesn't matter. It's 2 containers. Then the person who has them can bring them. My mother has them. Then your mother can bring them. She'll be with me. I folded my hands on the menu. I'll be attending as Matthew's mother. I won't be working during setup. Caitlin looked at Jonathan. This is a family issue. He didn't answer. I said no. This is an event assignment in a catering meeting. Matthew spoke quietly. Mom, no one said you'd be working. Jonathan looked down at the page. It says family helper. The room went silent. I asked, beside my name? Yes. Who provided that description? Jonathan didn't need to answer. Caitlin did. I did. Why? Because you said you wanted to be involved. I said I wanted to be included. They're the same thing. No, they aren't. Her face reddened. What exactly do you want, Meredith? A chair with my family, my name on the photograph list, information about the event I'm paying for. None of that makes me your assistant. I never called you my assistant. You called me a helper to the people serving the wedding. Because you were helping. I was asked to carry things. I wasn't asked to make decisions. You're making decisions now, only because I insisted on seeing them. Matthew put his coffee down. Can we keep this calm? I turned to him. I am calm. Jonathan slid the contact page toward me. There it was in plain print. Meredith Day, family helper, available as needed. Below that was my phone number. My name wasn't identified as the client anywhere on that page. Please correct this, I told him. Of course. He drew a line through the description. What would you like it to say? Client contact. No operational duties. He wrote the words while all 3 of us watched. Then he turned the page toward Caitlin and Matthew. For clarity, my staff will not assign Meredith setup, service, delivery, or cleanup work. If either of you need personal assistance, you'll arrange that separately. Caitlin's mouth tightened. Fine. Jonathan removed my number from the setup section. Then he added Caitlin's. She leaned forward. I told you I'll be getting ready. You can designate someone else before the event, he said. Until then, you're the contact. That was the first substantial boundary I had set. It worked because I set it in the room where the work was being assigned. It also meant Caitlin could no longer pretend she had misunderstood me. Jonathan moved to the rehearsal layout. The latest seating change is still pending. It's final, Caitlin said. I looked at Matthew. He glanced at the diagram. Can we go over it once more? Her chair creaked as she turned toward him. We already did. I want Mom at the family table. For a moment, nobody moved. It was the first time he had said it in front of her. Caitlin's voice stayed even. The ceremony participants need those seats. Could they sit at the next table? No. Why not? Because I planned the timing around that table. What timing? I asked. She looked at me. The rehearsal timing. Jonathan said dinner seating doesn't affect the ceremony. That isn't what I mean. Then explain it. She took the seating diagram from the table. I want the people closest to the ceremony at one table. I'm the groom's mother, I said. You aren't performing a ceremony function. Matthew looked down. The words stayed in the room. Jonathan gathered the extra menus. He had performed his function. He wasn't going to decide who counted as family, and I didn't expect him to. Matthew finally said, "That sounds bad." Caitlin stared at him. "I'm talking about logistics. So was I said, until you explained the rule." She pushed the diagram back across the table. "I'm not changing it." Matthew rubbed both hands over his face. "Can we deal with this later?" "There's nothing to deal with," Caitlin said. "Meredith has a seat. Table 4 remained beside my name. We finished the meeting in another 20 minutes. I approved the menu and guest count. Jonathan confirmed that North Shore would handle all food service, setup, and cleanup. When we stood, he handed me the corrected contact page. "Keep this with your agreement." "I will." Caitlin picked up the seating box. "We need to go," she told Matthew. He followed her into the hallway. I placed my papers inside the blue folder and took my time closing it. Jonathan walked me to the main entrance. "If my staff contacts you about work, tell me," he said. "Thank you. You're paying us to perform the service." That was my understanding. Outside, Caitlin and Matthew were waiting under the covered drive. Rain blew across the parking lot in sheets. Caitlin held the seating box against her coat. "You embarrassed me in there," she said. "I corrected an event record. You made it sound like I was using you. I read what you wrote. I was trying to give you a way to be involved. Carrying containers isn't involvement. Not everyone gets a special role. I already have one." She laughed once. "Being the groom's mother doesn't mean you control the wedding. I haven't tried to control it. You called the event manager behind our backs. I called the man whose agreement I signed. Matthew stepped between us, though neither of us had moved. Let's not do this here." Caitlin turned on him. "You agreed that she didn't need to attend this meeting. I said it might be easier. For whom?" I asked. He looked at the wet pavement. Caitlin tightened her grip on the box. "If you're going to use the money to force your way into everything, maybe we need to rethink this arrangement." She said it confidently. I don't think she believed there was anything to rethink. The first installment was paid, the venue was reserved, the invitations had gone out. She believed the remaining payment was simply waiting for the date. "I didn't mention money in that room," I said. "You didn't have to. I asked not to be assigned work. You're making a distinction nobody else cares about. I care about it." She shook her head. "This wedding is not about you." "I know. Then stop creating problems." I looked at Matthew. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "All right," I said. "I'll see you at the rehearsal." Caitlin walked toward their vehicle. Matthew stayed under the awning. "I'll meet you there," she called. He waited until her door closed. Then he turned to me. "She shouldn't have listed you that way." "No. And I don't like the seating." "No, but I can't fight over every detail this close to the wedding. You haven't fought over one." He put his hands in his coat pockets. "You heard what she said. If I push now, everything turns into a crisis. It's already a crisis. You've only arranged for me to absorb it. That's not what I'm doing. What are you doing? I'm trying to get through the wedding. And afterward, we can sit down. We'll talk. Caitlin can apologize." I stepped closer so I wouldn't have to raise my voice over the rain. "I don't want a private apology afterward for something you permitted in public." His face changed. "What do you want me to do?" "Treat me openly as your mother." "I do. Not when it costs you peace with Caitlin." He looked toward their vehicle. "She's under pressure." "So are you, I know. And when you're under pressure, you move it onto me." He didn't argue. I adjusted the folder beneath my arm. "You have until the rehearsal dinner to decide whether this is acceptable to you. What happens then?" "I decide what's acceptable to me." He watched me walk to my car. That night, Jonathan sent the final review confirmation. Attached was the corrected contact sheet. Meredith Day, client contact, no operational duties. I printed it and locked it inside my desk. On Friday morning, a group message appeared on my phone. Caitlin had sent it to more than a dozen relatives and wedding participants. Quick update. Meredith has decided to step back from helping with wedding preparations. We're respecting her need for less stress. Please let me know if you can assist with setup, welcome materials, and deliveries. Several people responded within minutes. Of course, happy to help. Family takes care of family. Then Matthew added a heart beneath Caitlin's message. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at it. She had turned my boundary into a weakness. He had approved the version without asking me. I opened the corrected contact sheet and placed it beside my phone. Then I replied to everyone. For accuracy, I did not step back because of stress. I declined duties I was assigned without my consent. North Shore Events is contracted to perform the event work. I remain Matthew's mother and will attend as family. The replies stopped. A minute later, Matthew called. I watched his name flash across the screen while another message appeared from Caitlin. You had no right to send that. I answered Matthew's call first. Why did you respond to the whole group? He asked. Because Caitlin wrote to the whole group. You could have called us. She could have called me. She was trying to cover the missing help. There is no missing help. North Shore is being paid to do the work. That doesn't include every little thing. Then you and Caitlin can handle the little things." He lowered his voice. "You made her look terrible." I described what happened. You made it sound intentional. Was the message about my stress intentional? He didn't answer. "Matthew?" She was trying to keep it simple. She told people I stepped back. I never stepped forward. "You did help at first. I returned candle holders and assembled welcome bags. That didn't make me responsible for the wedding. I know." "Then why did you put a heart under her message?" He let out a tired breath. "I was supporting her. You were supporting something untrue. It was a heart, Mom. It told everyone you agreed." He was quiet. In the background, Caitlin said, "Give me the phone." A second later, her voice came through. "You need to delete that message." "No, people are calling me. What are they asking? Why you're upset? Tell them." "I'm not discussing private family issues with everyone. You started the discussion. I asked for help. You explained why you needed it. You blamed me." Her voice began to shake. "I cannot believe you're doing this before my wedding." I sat at my desk and opened the notebook. "What am I doing? You're turning people against me." I corrected one message. "You knew how it would look. I knew how your version looked." She started crying, not loudly. I could hear her trying to control her breathing. Matthew said something to her. Then she came back. "I wanted you involved, as labor, as family helping family. Does your mother have duties? She's helping me. That isn't what I asked. She's involved with the ceremony, and I'm involved with the checkbook." Matthew said, "Mom, don't." I stopped speaking. That sentence had come out sharper than I intended. It was true, but I didn't want money to become the only language between us. Caitlin sniffed. "There, that's what this is really about. No. That's what I'm trying to prevent. You want everyone to remember you're paying. I want you to remember I'm a person." "Oh, please." Matthew took the phone. "We should all calm down." I am sitting quietly at my desk. You know what I mean. Yes, you mean I should stop answering. I mean, we need to talk in person, then come here. When? Tomorrow afternoon. He spoke with Caitlin for a moment. "We'll come at 2. After we hung up, I walked through the house collecting wedding items. The sample linens were in the hall closet. A roll of ribbons sat on the sideboard. There were extra printed labels in a kitchen drawer. I found a small bag of place card holders behind the welcome bags. I hadn't bought those things. Caitlin had left them during visits. Each item had entered my house with a sentence like, "Can you hold this?" or "We'll deal with that later." Later had arrived. I put everything into 2 cardboard boxes and set them beside the front door. The boxes looked like more than they were. That was probably why I had never gathered the items before. Spread through the house, they seemed harmless. Together, they looked like inventory. The next afternoon, Matthew knocked at 2:10. Caitlin stood behind him wearing the same light coat she'd worn at the catering review. Her eyes were puffy. They saw the boxes immediately. "What's that?" Matthew asked. "Wedding materials." Caitlin walked past him and opened the first box. "Why are these packed?" "They belong to you. You could have waited until the rehearsal." "I don't want to be responsible for them." "No one said you were responsible. They were stored in my house. Because you have space. I also have a front door." Matthew closed it behind them. "Can we sit down?" We went to the kitchen. I offered coffee. Caitlin said no. Matthew said yes, then changed his answer after looking at her. Nobody removed a coat. Caitlin placed her phone on the table. 3 people asked if I was making you work at the wedding. What did you tell them? That you offered to help, then changed your mind. That isn't true. You did change your mind. I changed what I was willing to tolerate. She pressed her palms against the table. "Do you hear yourself?" "Yes, you're speaking as if I mistreated you. You removed me from the family table. You gave the venue my number as someone available for work. Then you told relatives I withdrew because of stress. I didn't say you were unstable. I didn't say you did. That's what people are assuming, because of your wording. It was kind wording. It was false wording." Matthew sat beside her. "What would make this better?" he asked. I looked at him. "You could correct the message." His mouth tightened. "What should I say?" "That I never agreed to wedding duties. North Shore is handling the event work." Caitlin shook her head. "No, then everyone will think we tried to use you." I waited. She realized what she'd said. "You did try," I answered. "That is not fair." "Then why are the boxes here?" "They were stored here." "Why was I listed as available?" "Because you're retired." The room went still. I asked, "What does that have to do with anything? You have more flexibility. Whose time is it?" She looked away. Matthew said, "That came out wrong. It came out plainly." Caitlin stood and walked to the sink. Rain dotted the window above it. "My mother understands how much work a wedding takes. Your mother has the role you gave her. She's the bride's mother, and I'm the groom's mother. It's different." "Why?" "She and I plan things together. Because you invite her." Caitlin turned around. "You and I don't have that relationship." At last, an honest answer. She crossed her arms. "I have tried with you." "When?" "I came to dinner. At my house. I text you. With errands. I included you in the venue meeting. Jonathan included me." Matthew said, "This isn't helping." I faced him. She's answering. Caitlin sat again. "What do you want from me, Meredith? Do you want to get dressed with us? Sit with my mother? Be in every photograph? I want to attend my son's wedding without being assigned a shift. You aren't assigned a shift. Then why did you need a family helper? That was shorthand. For what?" She rubbed her forehead. "For someone dependable." I looked at Matthew. He stared at the tabletop. There was the useful answer. Caitlin trusted me to work. She didn't trust me with closeness. Matthew had allowed the difference because dependability benefited both of them. I asked, "Who told your family I preferred not to sit at the family table?" Her eyes lifted. "What are you talking about? You said people were calling. Did anyone ask about the seating?" Matthew looked at her. Caitlin's voice became careful. "My parents noticed the layout. And? They asked why you had been moved. What did you tell them? That you might be more comfortable elsewhere." Matthew turned toward her. "You told them Mom wanted it. I said she might prefer it." "You knew I didn't," I said. "I didn't want them involved. So you changed my reason. I prevented more drama. You created the reason, then hid it. They don't need every detail, but they're sitting at the table. They're the bride's parents, and I'm the groom's mother." She looked toward the door. "We're going in circles." "No." We reached the answer. Matthew spoke quietly. "Did your parents think Mom asked to move?" Caitlin didn't respond. "Caitlin, they probably assumed that, because you led them to." I was protecting everyone. He stood and went to the counter. For a moment, I thought he might finally confront her. Instead, he picked up one of the boxes. "We should take these to the car." I looked down at my hands. Caitlin stood too. "So that's it?" she asked. "You're done helping?" "Yes." "What about the rehearsal?" "I'll attend." "Will you come early?" "No. We need family there before everyone else. North Shore has my arrival listed with the guests. You change that too?" I corrected it. Her expression hardened. "This is exactly why I wanted fewer people involved in planning. I wasn't involved in planning, I was involved in carrying." Matthew picked up the second box. "We're leaving." At the front door, Caitlin stopped. "If you're going to watch every word I say, I don't know how we're supposed to have a relationship. Say accurate things. That's easy for you. You don't have everyone questioning your decisions. I question my own decisions all week." She opened the door. Matthew carried both boxes to the truck. Caitlin followed without saying goodbye. Before she got in, I called her name. She turned. "I want you to stop telling people I withdrew because of stress. What should I tell them? That I declined work I never accepted. I'm not sending that. Then don't discuss me." She got into the truck and closed the door. Matthew returned to the porch. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what? All of this." That covers too much. He looked back at the truck. I didn't know what she told her parents. You knew what she told our family group. I shouldn't have reacted to it. No, I'll talk to her. Will you correct it? He pressed his lips together. I'll talk to her. I nodded and went inside. The boxes were gone. The hallway looked wider without them. On Monday, Jonathan called while I was cleaning the refrigerator. I received a request concerning event communications, he said. From Caitlin? Yes. She asked that future schedules go only to her and Matthew. I put the milk back on the shelf. What did you tell her? That I need your approval to remove you. I don't approve. Understood. Did she explain why? She said too many people receiving revisions caused confusion. There are 3 of us. I noted that. Please continue copying me. I will. He sent a confirmation while we were on the phone. Caitlin and Matthew were copied. Client contact remains unchanged. All catering revisions will continue to include Meredith Day, the deliberate boundary held. Less than 5 minutes later, Caitlin replied, Understood. To avoid further confusion, Matthew and I will handle all family decisions separately. That afternoon, Jonathan sent the rehearsal schedule. My arrival time was listed with the guests. North Shore staff had been assigned setup, deliveries, welcome materials, and place cards. I read each line. The event work was no longer attached to my name. Then I reached the seating note. Family table revision approved by couple. Meredith Day assigned to table 4. My phone rang before I could close the document. Caitlin's name appeared on the screen. When I answered, her voice was calm. Since you want everything separate, we need to talk about what that means for the rehearsal dinner. What does it mean? I asked. It means you attend as a guest. I thought I was already attending as a guest. You keep saying you don't want responsibilities. I don't. Then you don't need access to family preparations. What access are you removing? She took a breath. The early photographs, the rehearsal briefing, the family welcome before dinner. I wasn't told about a family welcome because the schedule wasn't final. Who will be there? Our parents and the ceremony group. I am one of the parents. You're choosing not to participate. I'm choosing not to carry boxes. You keep twisting this. I'm asking what one has to do with the other. She raised her voice. Family participates, Meredith. In what? In making things easier. For you. For the couple getting married. That's how weddings work. I looked at the corrected schedule. Does Matthew agree with this? He's sitting beside me. Put him on. A moment later, he said, Hi, Mom. Did you agree that I shouldn't attend the family welcome? It's mostly a final run-through. That isn't what Caitlin said. She's trying to simplify the day. Did you agree? He hesitated. I agreed that people with responsibilities should come early. Your responsibility is getting married. That isn't what I mean. Your father would have come early. The silence changed. I rarely used Vernon in arguments. It felt unfair to bring in someone who couldn't speak for himself. Still, the words were already there. Matthew's voice became colder. Dad isn't here. I know. You can't keep using what he might have done. I said it once. Because you know I can't answer it. You can answer for yourself. I am. I'm asking you to come at the time on the schedule. As a regular guest. Yes. The answer was so simple that I checked whether I had heard him correctly. No photographs before dinner? We can take one at the wedding. If there's time, there will be time. No family table? We've discussed that. No welcome? It isn't a separate event. People are just gathering. Without me. He exhaled. Mom, you said you wanted everything separate. I said I wouldn't perform event duties. Caitlin doesn't see a difference. I'm asking whether you do. He didn't answer. Caitlin spoke near him. Ask her about the payment. I heard every word. Matthew moved away from her, but he stayed on the line. Jonathan hasn't changed anything financial, right? There it was. My family role could shrink. My photograph could disappear. My chair could move beside a service corridor. But the money was supposed to remain exactly where they had placed it. The agreement hasn't changed, I said. Good. He said it with relief. I closed my eyes. Then he added, I mean, we don't need another problem. I understood. Mom, please. I'll arrive at the time on the schedule. Okay, I won't come early. That's probably best. I waited to see if he would take it back. He didn't. After the call, I stood in the kitchen without moving. The refrigerator started humming behind me. I had wanted him to choose one chair. That was all. I thought if he defended that chair, I would know I still belonged beside him. He had made a different choice. He had removed the need for a decision by removing me from the room. The updated photograph schedule arrived that afternoon. Caitlin sent it to the family group. Her message was cheerful. Final rehearsal plan. Please check your arrival time and assigned group. The early group included Caitlin's parents and the ceremony participants. Matthew was listed beside her. My name appeared under general guests. Nobody commented at first. Then one person asked, "Is Meredith not doing family photos?" Caitlin replied, "We're keeping early activities limited to participants." Another person wrote, "Got it." That was all it took. A family fact had been changed in 2 sentences. I didn't correct the group this time. I had already told the truth. Repeating it under every new version would make me look as if I were begging strangers to settle my place. Instead, I sent Matthew a private message. "You agreed to classify me with the general guests while I remain responsible for catering." He replied 20 minutes later, "You asked to be treated as a guest." "No, I asked not to be treated as staff." He didn't respond. Saturday morning, I set 2 cups on the kitchen table. Matthew had said he would visit. He hadn't given a time, so I made coffee at 9. At 10, I covered the second cup with a saucer. At 11:12, he sent a message. "Not coming today. We need some space until things settle." I read the words while standing beside his empty chair. "Who is we?" I wrote. He didn't answer. I poured his coffee down the sink. That was the relational cost. It wasn't dramatic. No one shouted. No door slammed. My son simply stopped coming to a house where nothing was required of him. I spent the afternoon cleaning the garage. Vernon's workbench still had pencil marks along one edge. He used to measure boards there, then write the number directly on the wood before he forgot it. I sorted screws into jars. I folded an old drop cloth. I swept dried leaves from beneath the side door. Near the back wall, I found the cooler Matthew had borrowed twice and returned dirty both times. I washed it with a hose and left it upside down to dry. Physical work helped because it ended. The floor became clean. The jars became organized. Nothing argued about what had happened. Around 4, my phone rang. It was Matthew. I considered letting it go to voicemail. Then I answered. Hi, Mom." Neither of us spoke for a moment. "I'm sorry I canceled," he said. "You didn't cancel. You said you weren't coming. That's the same thing." "No, canceling means there was a plan. There was a plan. What time were you coming?" He didn't answer. I sat on the step outside the garage. "Caitlin's upset about the group message," he said. "I know. Her parents are asking questions. They noticed the seating before I said anything. She feels like you're trying to make them judge her. I haven't spoken to them. They can read the group messages. So can everyone else. That's why this is a problem. The problem existed before they read it." He made a frustrated sound. "Can we stop going in circles?" "Yes. Tell the truth once." "What truth?" "That Caitlin assigned me work. I refused. She moved me from the family table. You allowed it. You want me to send that to everyone? I want you to stop helping her replace it with something cleaner. I'm not lying. You reacted to her message." I removed the heart. I opened the group conversation. He had removed it. It was a small action. Nobody would receive a notification. Most people would never notice. "Why did you remove it?" "Because you were right." "I shouldn't have supported the message. Will you correct it?" "I don't want to keep this public. Then correct it privately when people ask." He paused. "I can do that, will you?" "Yes." I wanted to believe him. More than that, I wanted the promise to be enough. For years, I had accepted promises because asking to see the action felt distrustful. When your future in-laws asked about my seat, "What did you tell them?" I asked. "That the arrangement wasn't my choice." "Did you tell them you accepted it?" "No." "Then you gave them half the truth." I told Caitlin I didn't like it, privately. Yes, that keeps being the safest place for your courage. He went silent. I regretted the sentence as soon as I said it. Not because it was false, because I knew exactly where to place it. That was cruel, he said. I'm sorry for how I said it. Are you sorry you believe it? No. He breathed out. At least you're honest. I'm trying to be. What do you want now? That question changed something. A week earlier, I would have said I wanted my seat restored. I would have asked for the photographs and the family welcome. I would have accepted them, even if everyone knew they had been forced. I didn't want that anymore. I don't want Caitlin to move my name back because she's embarrassed, I said. Then what do you want? I want to see what you do when the choice is yours. What choice? The next one. That doesn't make sense. It will. He sounded uneasy. Are you planning something? No, that was true. I had not decided what I would do. I only knew that my goal had changed. I wasn't trying to earn my place at their table anymore. I needed to stop my money from making their treatment of me easier. I'll see you at the rehearsal, I said. Can we talk before then? If you want to visit with Caitlin. Either way, I'll ask her. No. Decide whether you want to come. He didn't promise. That evening, I unlocked the desk drawer and removed the master catering agreement. I read the payment section again. The first installment was non-refundable, $6,000. If I canceled the service before the deadline, North Shore kept it. I turned to the next page. The remaining $24,000 would no longer be due from me. I already knew those words. I had initialed beside them months earlier. Reading them now felt different because I finally understood what they might cost. $6,000 was not a symbol. It was new flooring, a used car, several winters of heating bills. I called Jonathan on Monday morning. I need you to explain the cancellation section again. His voice remained professional. Are you requesting a cancellation? Not today. All right. If I canceled before the deadline, what happens? North Shore keeps the first installment. Your remaining obligation ends. And the wedding reception? The service reservation would be released unless Matthew and Caitlin signed a replacement agreement. With their own payment? Yes. How long would they have? If they wanted to preserve the current service, the replacement would need to be completed by 8 that evening. The same deadline. Yes. Would you tell them I asked this? No. Contract questions remain between North Shore and the client. I ran my finger over my initials. I haven't made a decision. I understand. After we hung up, I sat with the agreement open. I had paid $6,000 because I thought generosity would keep me close to Matthew. Now keeping the rest of the promise might require me to accept that closeness on any terms they offered. That was no longer enough. I opened my notebook and wrote one sentence. The rehearsal dinner is not about getting my chair back. It is where I learn what Matthew permits when everyone can see him. I closed the notebook and put it beside the agreement. Then I wrote Jonathan an email. Please keep the current package unchanged. Do not add services, equipment, food, or charges without my written approval. He replied before noon. Understood. All changes requiring payment will be sent to you. I printed that message too. It wasn't a threat. It was a practical rule. I had spent months letting Caitlin speak as if my agreement were another section in her binder. From then on, I would treat it as what it was, my responsibility. On Tuesday, I took my rehearsal dress from the closet. It was dark green with long sleeves. I had bought it before the trouble started. Caitlin had approved it from a photograph. That'll work, she had written. At the time, I hadn't noticed the wording. I had sent her 3 choices because I wanted her to like how I looked. I wanted to fit whatever picture she had in mind. I put on the dress and stood before the bedroom mirror. It fit properly. The color suited me. I didn't need another opinion. I steamed the sleeves and hung it on the outside of the closet door. At 3 that afternoon, an email arrived from Jonathan. Please review the requested additions below. Caitlin wanted a second dessert selection at the rehearsal dinner. She had also asked North Shore to extend room access so her ceremony group could set up personal decorations earlier. Both changes carried additional charges. Jonathan had written one sentence beneath the list. Work will not begin without client approval. I replied to everyone. Not approved. Please keep the signed package and original access time. Caitlin called within 2 minutes. I let it ring and waited for her message. Please call me. This is urgent, I wrote. You can explain the request by email. She called again. Then Matthew called. I answered him. Why won't you talk to Caitlin? I asked her to put the request in writing. It is in writing. Then I've answered it. She already told people there would be 2 desserts. That was premature. It's not a major change. It costs more. We can take it out of something else. Jonathan didn't offer that option. Did you ask? No. He sounded surprised. You could at least ask. If you want the change, you ask. If North Shore can provide it without increasing what I owe, I'll review it. You're being very formal. I signed a formal agreement. This is still our wedding. Yes. So why does everything have to go through Jonathan now? Because he manages the service. Caitlin feels like you're shutting her out. I almost laughed, but I didn't. She requested a change. She received an answer. She wants you to reconsider. No. Why? The original dessert is enough. That isn't your decision. The menu choice is yours. The additional charge is mine. He became quiet. What if we pay the difference? Then arrange it with Jonathan. That's not what Caitlin expected. I know. He moved away from wherever he was. The background noise faded. Is this because of the seating? No, it feels like punishment. I'm keeping the agreement we all accepted. You were happy to help before. That version of helping didn't have a limit. Families don't usually set limits like this. Then you won't mind paying for the dessert. He sighed. I'll talk to her. An hour later, Jonathan sent an update. Couple has declined to fund requested additions. Original package remains in effect. That was the first future charge I stopped. Nothing was taken from the wedding. They still had dinner, dessert, the room, and professional service. The only thing they lost was an improvement they had ordered with money they hadn't asked me to spend. The result was visible. All 3 of us had received the same message. Caitlin couldn't tell Matthew I had misunderstood. Matthew couldn't tell me he didn't know. At 6, Caitlin emailed me directly. If you're concerned about feeling excluded, we can put you back at the family table. I'd like us to move forward positively. Please reconsider the dessert and access request. I read the 2 sentences several times. There was no apology. There was a trade. I replied, copying Matthew. My seat is not payment for an upgrade. Keep the seating plan you chose. The additional charges remain declined. Matthew called again. This time I didn't answer. He sent a message. Mom, she offered what you wanted. I wrote back, I wanted my son to say I belonged there. I don't want the chair as a refund. He didn't respond. The next day, I went to the grocery store. I bought food for 1 week instead of preparing for unexpected visitors. I passed the bakery section and saw the small lemon cakes Matthew liked. I kept walking. At home, I made a sandwich and ate it beside the living room window. A ferry moved slowly through the gray water. Its lights were visible even in the afternoon. I didn't feel powerful. I felt lonely. That mattered because loneliness had made many of my earlier decisions. It had filled my refrigerator before visits that were never promised. It had returned supplies without complaint. It had signed a catering agreement while telling me generosity and closeness were the same thing. The phone rang as I finished eating. Caitlin's name appeared. I answered. I'm not calling about money, she said. All right, I want to talk woman to woman. I waited. I know we haven't always understood each other. That's true. And I know Matthew is caught in the middle. He put himself there. He loves both of us. I've never asked him not to love you. Neither have I. I looked at the dress hanging across the hall. What do you want to discuss? The rehearsal dinner. What about it? I don't want tension. Neither do I. My parents are uncomfortable now because they learned I didn't choose my seat. They feel like they're being pulled into something private. I haven't contacted them. They saw your message. They saw yours first. She paused. I'm trying to offer peace. What does that look like? You come early. We take photographs. You sit at the family table. And the extra dessert? Her voice changed slightly. It would show that you're willing to move forward, too. There it is. What? The condition. It's not a condition. Will I be at the family table if I decline the additional charge? She didn't answer. Caitlin? The seating is difficult. It became less difficult when you wanted something. You're reducing everything to a transaction. I declined the transaction. She breathed out sharply. Fine. Stay at table 4. I plan to. You are unbelievably stubborn. I answered your question. You're going to sit there all evening and make sure everyone knows you're unhappy. I know how to eat dinner without staging a protest. You already staged one in the family group. I corrected a false statement. We will never agree about that. Probably not. Her voice became quieter. Matthew thinks you might not come. I told him I would. He says you're acting different. I am. Is this what Vernon would want? I stood so quickly that the plate on my lap slid onto the cushion. Do not use my husband to manage me. She went silent. I picked up the plate. I'm sorry, she said. That came out wrong. You didn't know Vernon well enough to say what he would want. I know he cared about family. So do I. Then why are you doing this? Because caring about family doesn't require pretending. She began crying again. I'm trying so hard to have one nice day. You're having an entire wedding. You know what I mean? Yes. You want no resistance. I want support. You have support. You have Matthew. You have your parents. You have professional staff. I wanted you to. You wanted my agreement to every request. That isn't fair. Would you have offered the family table without the dessert charge? She didn't answer. I waited until she spoke. I have to go. All right. She ended the call. I cleaned the plate and changed the cushion cover. Then I wrote down what she had offered and what she had asked for in return. It felt cold to keep notes about my family. That was another cost. I had always believed trust meant not needing a record, but memory had become too easy to negotiate. Caitlin called demands misunderstandings. Matthew called decisions details. I softened both by the next morning. The notebook kept the edges where they belonged. On Thursday evening, Matthew came alone. He didn't call first. I opened the door and found him with his hands in his jacket pockets. Can I come in? Yes. We sat in the kitchen. I didn't offer food immediately. That felt unnatural enough that he noticed. Do you have coffee? He asked. I can make some. You don't have to. I know. I made it because I wanted a cup too. He watched me pour. Caitlin told me what she said about Dad. She apologized. She feels awful. I'm glad she understands it was wrong. She thinks you hate her. I don't. Then what is this? I carried both cups to the table. This is me believing what she does. He frowned. She offered to move you back. In exchange for money. She didn't say that. She asked me to reconsider the charges in the same message. She was trying to solve everything at once. No. She found out my chair had value to me. That sounds cynical. It felt worse. He rubbed the side of his cup. What do you expect me to do now? I'm not expecting you to rescue me. Then why do you keep testing me? I stopped testing you. That's not how it feels. I asked for one public correction. You chose private sympathy. I removed the heart. I noticed. I told people who asked that you didn't volunteer for setup. That was new. Who asked? A few relatives. What did you say? That there was confusion about the event duties. I said North Shore was handling them. Did you say I declined because of stress? No, it was useful but incomplete. He had corrected the story only when questioned. He still hadn't addressed the seating or Caitlin's message. Thank you for telling them, I said. He looked relieved. Then he asked, Is the final payment ready? I took a slow drink of coffee. My finances are handled. That's not what I asked. It's the answer I'm giving. His face changed. Are you threatening the wedding? No. Then why can't you say yes? because my agreement is no longer a family discussion. Caitlin is going to panic if I tell her that. You don't need to report my bank balance. She needs to know the reception is safe. The signed terms haven't changed. He studied me. What does that mean? It means exactly what I said. He left without finishing his coffee. The next morning, Caitlin sent Jonathan a message and copied us. Since Meredith has declined informal family assistance, please confirm your staff will not ask her to perform any event task. Jonathan replied, confirmed. Then Caitlin added one more sentence. Any favors requested by family during the rehearsal will be personal and outside North Shore's responsibility. I read it twice. She had finally accepted that the venue couldn't assign me work. She had also found the place where she intended to try again. I replied to the email. A personal favor still requires my consent. Jonathan wrote, correct. Caitlin didn't respond. The following morning, I tried to open the family group conversation. A message appeared at the bottom. You can no longer send messages to this group. I thought it was a problem with my phone. I closed the application and opened it again. The same message appeared. My last correction was still visible. So was Caitlin's explanation about my stress. Matthew's heart was gone. Then the conversation disappeared from my list. I called Matthew. Was I removed from the wedding group? He hesitated. Caitlin started a new one. Without me. It's for people helping with the final week. The old group included me. The conversation got uncomfortable. For whom? For everyone. Did everyone ask to remove me? No. Did you? No. Did you object? He didn't answer. I sat down on the edge of my bed. What is she telling them now? Nothing. That isn't believable. She's trying to coordinate the wedding. Then why not leave the old group open? Because every message became an argument. I replied twice. It was enough, apparently. He lowered his voice. Mom, she's worried you're going to stop the catering payment. Why? Because of what you said when I came over. I said my finances were handled. You wouldn't tell me the payment was ready. I'm not discussing my bank balance with a family group. Nobody asked you to. Not yet. He was quiet. I asked, what did you tell Caitlin? That you wouldn't give me a straight answer. You asked the wrong question. It was a simple question. So was mine. When did you last visit because you wanted to see me? That has nothing to do with the reception. It has everything to do with it. He made a tired sound. I can't do this before work. Then call me after. I will. He didn't. At noon, my phone began ringing from numbers I recognized but didn't speak to often. I let the first 2 calls go to voicemail. The third person left a message. Meredith, I heard there may be trouble with the catering. I hope you and Matthew can work this out privately. It would be awful for the wedding to suffer. No one said where they had heard it. The next message was shorter. Please don't make any decisions while everyone's upset. I listened twice. The story had changed again. I was no longer a tired woman stepping back from duties. I was an angry mother holding a wedding over her son's head. I hadn't threatened the reception. I hadn't mentioned cancellation to Matthew or Caitlin. I had only stopped promising that my money was untouched by their behavior. That was enough for Caitlin to build the rest. I sent Matthew one message. People are contacting me about catering trouble. Who told them there was a problem? He read it and didn't answer. At 3, Caitlin called. What have you been saying to people? She asked. I haven't returned their calls. They're worried. Because someone worried them. She spoke carefully. I told my parents we might need a backup plan. For what? The reception balance. Why? Because you won't confirm it. The agreement is still active. That isn't a promise you'll pay. You accepted the agreement when it benefited you. I didn't sign it. That's true. She was quiet for a second. Are you going to pay the balance? I'll handle my agreement. That is not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. Her breathing became louder. You're enjoying this. No, you finally have something you can use. I've had the agreement since the beginning. Then why bring it up now? You brought it up. Because you're acting strange. I stopped saying yes. You stopped acting like family. I looked through the open bedroom door at the green dress. What does family look like to you? Not this. Does it look like removing someone from a family conversation? That group is for coordination. Does it look like moving the groom's mother from the family table? We already discussed that. Does it look like telling people I may ruin the reception? I said we might need a backup for a problem you invented. You can solve it right now. How? Send Matthew a message confirming the full payment. He can show me. Then I'll tell everyone there's no problem. What happens to the seating? She paused. We can revisit it. The photographs? We can revisit those too. And if I don't send the message? Then I have to protect my wedding. There was the veiled threat. She didn't say I couldn't attend. She didn't need to. She made every family place conditional, then called the condition protection. I won't buy back what you removed, I said. You're the one attaching money to everything. I declined your offer. You are impossible. No, I'm expensive when you try to trade my dignity back to me. She ended the call. An hour later, Matthew pulled into my driveway. He knocked hard enough that I heard it from the kitchen. When I opened the door, he stepped inside without taking off his jacket. What are you doing? He asked. Making tea. You know what I mean. I closed the door. Did Caitlin send you? She's crying in our apartment. She called me. She said you refused to confirm the payment. That's true. His face went pale. Why? Because she tied my place at the wedding to the answer. She said she offered to fix the seating. If I reassured her about money, she wants to know the reception is happening. So do I. Then say you'll pay. I walked to the kitchen. He followed. The kettle began to hiss. I turned it off before it whistled. I haven't changed the contract. Stop saying it like that. Like what? Like you're a stranger. I became useful to both of you through a contract. Now you're offended that I'm reading it. You offered the money. Yes. You can't punish us for accepting. I'm not punishing you for accepting it. What are you punishing us for? I looked at him. He understood before I answered. This is about the table, he said. No. The table answered a question. What question? Whether you would treat me as your mother when Caitlin made it inconvenient. That's not worth destroying a wedding. I haven't destroyed anything. You're scaring everyone. I didn't contact anyone. You know how this looks. Yes. It looks like your fiancé started calling my money uncertain when I stopped being useful. He paced to the window and back. If the balance isn't paid, we'll have to use our savings. I said nothing. It would take almost everything we kept aside. Then you understand what you asked me to provide. We planned around your promise, and I planned around being treated as family. That wasn't a condition. It shouldn't have needed to be. He pressed both hands against the counter. Tell me what you want. I already did. You don't want the seat now. You don't want the photographs. You won't accept an apology. What is left? I want you to act correctly without being paid for it. He stared at me. That's not an answer I can take back to Caitlin. It wasn't for her. He walked toward the front door. Then he stopped. If you don't pay, she'll never forgive you. I looked at the back of his jacket. What about you? He turned around. I don't know. There it was. A real loss, spoken plainly. My son was willing to make our relationship depend on whether I absorbed the cost of his silence. I held the edge of the counter. Thank you for being honest. You think that makes you right? No. You could lose me over this. I know. His eyes filled, but he looked away before the tears fell. Dad would hate this. Your father would hate that we reached this point. He would pay. Your father would have insisted his wife sit beside him. That's different. It always is when the answer doesn't help you. He opened the door. The rehearsal is in 2 days, he said. Please don't do anything before then. I'm coming to dinner. That isn't what I meant. I know. He left. I stood in the hallway until his truck backed out. A few minutes later, I noticed something on the small table near the door. His house key. He had carried that key since Vernon died. I gave it to him in case I fell or needed help. He had used it to bring groceries inside once when I had the flu. Now it lay beside the bowl where I kept loose change. I picked it up. The metal was still warm. That was the strongest thing they could take without formally barring me from the wedding. Not a chair. Not a photograph. Access. Matthew had returned the key to make sure I understood that boundaries could face both directions. I sat at the kitchen table and placed it beside my notebook. At 6, Jonathan called. "I want to confirm there has been no change to your instructions," he said. "There hasn't. Caitlin contacted our office about a possible backup payer. What did you tell her?" "That no change has been requested by the client." "Did she ask about cancellation?" "She asked what would happen if there were a payment issue. And I told her North Shore would follow the signed agreement. I did not discuss your options." "Thank you. Do you expect a change?" "Not before the rehearsal dinner." He paused. "If you request one, I'll need it clearly stated." "I understand." After we hung up, I opened my banking records. I looked at the money I had saved. I looked at the amount still due. Then I looked at the $6,000 already gone. Until that evening, part of me still imagined I could avoid the loss. I thought Matthew might speak plainly before the rehearsal. I thought Caitlin might separate my money from my chair. I thought I could keep the wedding intact without teaching them that my consent survived every insult. The key beside my notebook removed that comfort. I placed the master agreement in its blue folder. Then I put the folder in my handbag instead of returning it to the locked drawer. I wasn't canceling anything that night. I was deciding whether I could bear the price if the next choice required it. I picked up Matthew's key and closed my hand around it. Then I said the amount aloud in my empty kitchen. $6,000. It hurt. I put the key in the desk drawer and locked it. The loss would hurt too. I accepted both. The next morning, I woke before 6. Rain tapped against the bedroom window. The green dress hung across from the bed, covered in a clear garment bag. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table. Matthew's key was no longer there. I had locked it away, but my eyes still went to the empty place. At 7:30, someone knocked. I wasn't expecting anyone. Caitlin's mother stood on the porch. She held an umbrella and a paper cup from a coffee shop. "May I come in?" I stepped aside. She closed the umbrella and left it near the door. Then she looked around the hallway as if she had expected to see evidence of a larger disaster. "I won't stay long," she said. "Would you like to sit?" We went to the living room. I offered coffee, but she raised her cup. "I have one." I sat in Vernon's chair. She chose the end of the sofa. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "Caitlin told me there's been a misunderstanding. That word has been busy." She gave a small, uncomfortable smile. "I'm not here to take sides." "Why are you here?" "She's very upset." "I know. She thinks the reception may be in danger." "Did she tell you why?" "She said you won't confirm the final payment." "Did she tell you I threatened not to pay?" Her fingers tightened around the cup. "No, because I didn't." "She said you're unhappy about the seating." "I am. I noticed you were moved." "Did you ask her about it?" "Yes." "What did she say?" "That the ceremony participants needed to sit together." "Did she tell you I asked to remain at the family table?" "No." I waited. She looked down at her coffee. "I assumed you wanted a quieter table." "That's what Caitlin hoped you would assume." Her face changed. "I don't want to get between you. You're already between us. She sent you here. She didn't send me." "Does she know you're here?" A pause. "Yes." "Does Matthew?" "Yes." I nodded. "What did they ask you to do?" "Talk to you. About the payment. About keeping the wedding calm. Those have become the same conversation." She set her cup on a coaster. "Meredith, I know weddings can bring out difficult feelings. This isn't a feeling about napkin colors." "I didn't say it was. I'm being seated away from the family while paying for the family dinner." Her eyes moved toward the framed harbor photograph. "I agree that doesn't look good. Did you tell Caitlin?" "I said she should reconsider." What did she say? She said she offered to move you back in exchange for approving additional charges. Caitlin's mother blinked. She didn't mention that. No. She picked up her cup again. What would resolve this? I thought about the question. A week ago, a seat might have resolved it. And now I need to see what my son does without a private negotiation. She sighed. Matthew is under a great deal of pressure. He is 42. I know. He isn't trapped between two women. He's avoiding a decision. Her mouth tightened. That sounds harsh. It's accurate. She stood. I hoped we could prevent more damage. So did I. Can I tell Caitlin the reception is safe? You can tell her the agreement remains active. She'll ask what that means. She can read the agreement she asked me to sign. Caitlin's mother picked up her umbrella. At the door, she turned back. I do think you should be at the family table. Thank you, I'll tell her. That part is yours to decide. After she left, I opened my notebook. I wrote that she had come to ask about the reception. I wrote that Caitlin had not told her about the condition attached to the seating offer. The direct conversation had removed another uncertainty. Caitlin's parents didn't know the full arrangement. Their concern was real, but it had been built from the version she gave them. I could have called the family members who left messages. I had the corrected contact sheet. I had emails. I had Caitlin's offer to trade my seat for additional charges. I could have forwarded all of it. For several minutes, I considered doing exactly that. It would have been easy. One message could have made Caitlin spend the day before her rehearsal explaining herself. Her parents would have known. The ceremony group would have known. Matthew would have been forced to answer before dinner. I opened a new message and added the documents. Then I deleted it. Public embarrassment wasn't the leverage I had signed. If I used a crowd to punish Caitlin before the dinner, I would become responsible for a different kind of cruelty. I wanted the truth visible if she chose to make it visible. I didn't want to arrange an audience for private records. At 9, I called Jonathan. I need to verify the cancellation procedure. Are you making a request now? No. All right. If I make the request during the rehearsal dinner before 8, can you act on it then? Yes. Even though the rehearsal service has already started, the rehearsal dinner would continue. That portion has been funded and performed. Your request would cancel the next day reception service. And North Shore keeps the first installment. Correct. I owe nothing further. Correct. What happens to the room? The venue reservation is connected to our service package. To preserve the reception as planned, Matthew and Caitlin would need a replacement client agreement, with the full balance paid by 8. Yes, not a deposit. The full reception balance, $24,000. Yes. I stared at the rain beyond the kitchen window. Can they sign it that evening? If they choose to. Do you have the agreement available? There is a standard replacement agreement in the venue office. Caitlin asked about a backup payer, so I prepared it. Does preparing it change my contract? No. Does it make them the client? Not unless your agreement is canceled and they sign the replacement. Can Matthew authorize my final payment? No. Can Caitlin? No. Can either of them stop me from canceling before the deadline? No. His answers were calm. He wasn't encouraging me. He wasn't promising a dramatic result. He was explaining the rule I had already signed. What do you need from me if I decide? A clear instruction. I will confirm it in writing. Will you discuss my reason? Only if you ask me to. I won't. Then I will state that the client canceled the next day's service under the agreement, and if I do nothing, the balance remains due at 8. That was the final uncertainty. The contract would not defend me by itself. Silence would keep everything moving exactly as Caitlin expected. I would have to speak before the deadline. Thank you, I said. Do you want to schedule a private meeting before dinner? No. Would you like me to contact you before 8? No, I'll make my own decision. Understood. After the call, I returned the agreement to the blue folder. I didn't need another document. I didn't need a hidden account or a different authority. I had one decision and one cost. If I canceled, North Shore would keep $6,000. Matthew and Caitlin would have to choose whether the reception mattered enough to spend their own savings. If I didn't, the final balance would leave my account, and they could continue telling themselves my money had nothing to do with how they treated me. The phone rang at 11. Matthew. Mom, are you home? Yes. Did Caitlin's mother come by? She did. Caitlin didn't ask her to do that. She knew. That doesn't mean she asked. All right. What did you tell her? The truth. He was silent. Which truth? He asked. That I never threatened the reception. I also explained the seating offer. What seating offer? Caitlin said she would revisit my chair if I approved the additions. He spoke away from the phone. Then he returned. Caitlin says that isn't how she meant it. It's how she wrote it. She was trying to make peace. Peace didn't require another dessert. He sighed. Can we please get through tonight? That depends on what happens tonight. What does that mean? It means I'm paying attention. Are you going to cause a scene? No, promise me, I won't cause one. He didn't seem reassured. Caitlin thinks you're bringing the contract. I keep financial papers in my handbag when they concern an active event. Why would you need it at dinner? I may not. Mom, Matthew, you asked me to keep the payment ready. I am handling the agreement. I want you there tonight. His voice had softened. I closed my eyes. As your mother? Yes. Will I sit with you? He didn't answer. Will I be included in the family welcome? Caitlin already sent the schedule. Then wanting me there isn't the same as making room. I can't change everything today. You had weeks. I know. That was the closest he had come to admitting it. I'll be there, I said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He heard something in my voice. What are you expecting to happen? I'm expecting dinner. That's all? That's all anyone has promised me. He ended the call after saying he would see me that evening. I spent the afternoon doing ordinary things. I washed my hair, I ironed a handkerchief. I checked the weather and chose shoes with low heels because the parking lot would be wet. At 4, I put on the green dress. I fastened Vernon's small gold pin near my left shoulder. It wasn't expensive. He had given it to me on our anniversary because I once stopped outside a shop window and looked at it too long. I took the blue folder from my handbag and opened it one last time. The agreement was there. Jonathan's emails were behind it. The corrected contact sheet was on top. Client contact, no operational duties. I returned the folder to my bag. Before leaving, I called Matthew once more. He answered immediately. I'm on my way, I said. Okay, is my place still table 4? Another pause. Yes. Did you ask Caitlin to change it? Yes. What did she say? She said it was too late. The seating box had been in her hands for days. It wasn't too late. It was final because she wanted it final. What did you say after that? I asked. I told her I didn't agree. Did you tell her to change it? No. Thank you for answering. Mom, please don't leave. I haven't arrived yet. I mean tonight. If you're upset, don't walk out. I'll make my own decisions. I drove down Glacier Highway with both hands on the wheel. Rain moved across the windshield in quick, steady strokes. The Aurora Harbor Room glowed against the gray evening. Cars lined the wet parking lot. I sat in mine for a minute. Canceling before I entered would have been easier. I could have spared myself the table, the photographs, and whatever personal favor Caitlin planned to request. It would also have spared Matthew his final chance to act where people could see him. I picked up my handbag. The $6,000 was already gone. If I used the agreement, part of my relationship with Matthew might go with it. I opened the car door anyway. Inside, Jonathan greeted me near the venue office. Good evening, Meredith. Good evening. His eyes moved briefly to my handbag, then back to my face. Everything is proceeding under the current agreement. I understand. The replacement agreement remains in my office. Thank you. He didn't say anything else. North Shore staff carried trays through the service corridor. The rehearsal cake waited in the kitchen. A server was placing the final cards from Caitlin's seating box. Voices rose from the room beyond the doors. I checked the clock near the office. There was still time. Then I walked into the Aurora Harbor room and followed the row of place cards toward Table 4. Table 4 had been moved. On the diagram, it sat near the inside wall. In the room, it was beside the service entrance. The door swung open every few seconds. Warm air came from the kitchen. Servers passed carrying water pitchers and trays of bread. There were 6 place cards on the table. 5 had names. Mine said, vendor. I picked it up and turned it over. The back was blank. A server stopped beside me. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know who prepared these cards?" "We placed them from the seating box. Did your staff print them?" "No, they came to us finished." "From Caitlin?" "That's my understanding." The server looked at the card in my hand. "Would you like me to find Mr. Carrillo?" "Not yet." I placed it beside my plate. The green dress no longer felt appropriate. I could hear Vernon telling me not to let another person's manners change my posture, so I sat down. Guests entered in small groups. Some noticed where I was. They smiled, then glanced toward the family table. Caitlin's parents were already seated there. The 2 ceremony participants had taken the remaining chairs. Matthew stood near the windows with Caitlin. He looked across the room and saw me. I touched the card with one finger. He looked away. That answered the first question. Dinner began without a family welcome. Jonathan's staff served salad and bread. Nobody asked me to carry anything. The corrected contact sheet had worked inside the agreement. Caitlin had simply moved outside it. The people at my table were polite. They talked about the rain and the harbor. One asked whether I had traveled far. "I live on Glacier Highway," I said. "Oh, are you at the venue?" I looked at the card. "I'm Matthew's mother." The woman's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "I'm sorry, I saw the card. So did I." She looked toward the family table, then lowered her voice. "Would you like to switch seats with me?" "No, thank you." That wasn't her problem to repair. The main course arrived. Salmon, potatoes, and vegetables. The food was good. I ate slowly. Matthew came to my table once. He placed his hand on the back of the empty chair beside me. "Everything okay?" I slid the card toward him. He read it. His face changed, but only for a moment. "I'm sure it's a mistake. Ask Caitlin." "Now?" "Yes." He looked across the room. "She's talking to her parents. Then wait until she finishes. Can we not make a thing out of a place card? It doesn't have my name on it, I can see that. What does it say?" He lowered his voice. "Vendor." The word sounded worse in his mouth. "Do you think that was a mistake?" I asked. He rubbed the back of the chair. "I don't know. You could find out. Mom, dinner has already started." "So, everyone's watching." "No, they're eating." He glanced around and saw several people looking away. "I'll ask her," he said. He returned to the family table. I watched him lean toward Caitlin. She looked at me, then at the card he held up. She didn't appear surprised. They spoke for less than a minute. Matthew sat down again. He didn't return. That answered the second question. When the dinner plates were cleared, Caitlin left the family table. She walked through the service door. A minute later, she came back carrying the cake knife. Jonathan's staff had brought the rehearsal cake from the kitchen. It sat on a small table near the front of the room. Caitlin placed the knife in front of me. "Meredith, the catering staff needs to stay focused on the guests," she said. "I need you to serve the cake." The nearest tables went quiet. I looked at the knife. Then I looked at her. "Did you prepare this place card?" She folded her arms. "I organized the seating box. Did you label me as a vendor? It's for coordination." "Whose coordination? The staff needs to know who is helping. I'm not helping with service. It's cutting cake. That's service. It's a family favor." "Then why does the card say vendor?" Her face tightened. "Because you insisted everything be separated. You didn't want to be listed as family support. I asked to be listed as the client. This is not the time. You brought me a knife in front of the room. I'm trying to keep dinner moving. The cake hasn't been cut." "Exactly." Matthew approached us. His eyes went from the card to the knife. "Can we talk outside?" he asked. "No," I said. Caitlin gave a short laugh. "Of course not." Matthew stepped closer to me. "Mom, can you just help tonight?" Please? I don't want this to get uncomfortable. The room had become very still. I looked at him. You saw the card, yes. You asked her about it, yes. What did she tell you? That it was for coordination. Do you believe that? He looked at Caitlin. She said, Matthew, don't. I waited. Finally, he spoke. I think we can deal with it later, after I serve the cake. It's one thing. One more thing. Please. He had made his choice where everyone could see him. I stood and picked up the place card. I left the knife on the table. Then I called, Jonathan? He was near the service corridor speaking with a member of his staff. He excused himself and came over. Yes, Meredith? I held up the card. Before I give you an instruction, please confirm who signed the North Shore Master Catering Agreement. His eyes moved to the word in my hand. You did. In what capacity? As the sole client. Matthew stared at him. Caitlin's arms dropped to her sides. I asked, who controls the final reception payment under that agreement? You do. Can Matthew authorize it? No. Can Caitlin? No. Her face lost its color. Matthew said, wait. I kept my eyes on Jonathan. What is the cancellation deadline? 8 o'clock this evening. I checked the clock on the wall. It was 7:12. I am canceling North Shore's next day reception service under the agreement. Caitlin made a sound behind me. Jonathan remained still. To confirm, you are directing North Shore Events to cancel tomorrow's reception service. You understand the first installment is non-refundable. Yes, you accept the loss of $6,000. Yes, and you are ending your obligation for the remaining balance. Yes. He nodded once. Cancellation confirmed. Nobody spoke. The service door opened behind him. A server stepped through, saw us, and stopped. Jonathan turned to the server. Please continue normal dinner service. North Shore staff will cut and serve the rehearsal cake. The server nodded and took the knife from the table. That small movement changed the room. The knife had been placed in front of me as an order. Jonathan returned it to the people being paid to use it. Caitlin stepped between us. You can't cancel our reception. Jonathan answered her. Meredith is the current client. We're the couple getting married. Yes, the reception is ours. The active service agreement was hers. Matthew looked at me. You really did it? Yes. You're going to ruin the wedding over a place card? No. Caitlin made the card. You asked me to obey it. I asked you to help. You asked me to make her treatment easier. His eyes filled. Mom. Caitlin grabbed his arm. Don't do this with her. Fix the reception. Then she turned to me. Reverse it. No, I will change the card. I held it out. The ink is dry. I'll put you at the family table. Dinner is almost over. You can sit with us for cake. I won't buy that chair. Her voice rose. This is blackmail. I haven't asked you for anything. You want to humiliate me? I wanted to eat dinner as Matthew's mother. You planned this. I brought the agreement because it was still active. You called Jonathan. I verified my options. Matthew looked at Jonathan. Can she undo it? Jonathan answered carefully. She may request a new agreement, subject to availability. The original agreement has been canceled. Then make a new one, Caitlin said. With her as the client? He asked. Caitlin looked at me. I shook my head. No. She turned back to Jonathan, then put Matthew on it. That requires a replacement client agreement and payment. How much? The full reception balance. Matthew already knew the amount. Still, he seemed to need Jonathan to say it. $24,000, Jonathan said. Caitlin's hand remained on Matthew's arm. When is it due? By 8 o'clock. That's less than an hour. Yes. You can't expect us to move that kind of money in less than an hour. Jonathan's voice stayed calm. North Shore did not cancel the agreement. She looked around the room. People at the family table had stopped pretending not to listen. Her parents were standing now. The ceremony participants remained seated. Caitlin pointed at me. She did this because of the seating. I answered before anyone else could. I did it because I was publicly classified as labor, and my son agreed I should work. That's not what happened. I held up the card. The word faced the room. Vendor. Nobody needed an explanation. Caitlin's mother looked at her. You made that? It was a label for the staff. Jonathan said, My staff did not request it. Caitlin turned on him. Stay out of this. He nodded. My only role is the service agreement. He walked toward the venue office. Matthew called after him. What happens if we don't sign? Jonathan stopped. North Shore will complete tonight's rehearsal dinner. Tomorrow's reception service will not proceed. And the service reservation will be released. A low murmur moved through the nearby tables. Jonathan continued. I have a replacement agreement in my office. You may review it if you wish. Then he left. Caitlin faced me again. You're going to let people come tomorrow with no reception? No, you're going to decide whether to fund it. We don't have money like you do. You told me you had savings. For after the wedding, then decide what the wedding costs you. Matthew pulled out a chair and sat down. He looked unsteady. You said the agreement hadn't changed. It hadn't. You let me believe the payment was safe. The payment was under the terms you never asked to read. You offered. I did. And now you've taken it back. I paid $6,000 for a dinner where my card says vendor. He covered his face with both hands. Caitlin started crying, not quietly this time. You hate me, she said. No, you wanted this moment. I gave Matthew every chance to prevent it. He lowered his hands. What was I supposed to do? Say no when she handed your mother a knife. It happened so fast. It took months. He looked at the card again. I didn't know you could cancel. I know. You never told us. I told you to decide what you would permit. That isn't the same thing. No, one was about me. You only heard the part that reached the reception. Caitlin's father stepped toward Matthew. Can you cover the balance? Matthew looked up. I don't know. How much is available now? Caitlin said. That's private. Her father looked at the clock. So is 8 o'clock. Matthew stood. He looked at Caitlin. We need to check the account. You're not spending all our savings because she threw a fit. I placed the card on the table. Matthew stared at it. Then he said, She didn't make that. Caitlin stopped crying. What? My mother didn't make that card. You're taking her side now? I asked her to serve the cake. His voice broke on the last word. No one answered him. Jonathan returned carrying a plain folder. He placed it on the family table. The replacement client agreement, he said. If you choose to proceed, bring it to my office before 8 with payment confirmation. Caitlin looked at me. Please reverse the cancellation. No, I'm asking you in front of everyone, and I'm answering you in front of everyone. She wiped her face. You're willing to lose $6,000 just to hurt us. I'm willing to lose it rather than finance people who call me family only when they need my money or my hands. The clock showed 7:24. Jonathan stepped back from the table. His work was finished until someone made a choice. Matthew opened the replacement agreement. Caitlin stood beside him, pale and silent. For the first time since they announced the wedding, both of them were looking at a bill with their own names waiting at the bottom. Matthew read the first page while Caitlin stood over him. This says the payment is due when we sign, he said. Jonathan nodded. Yes. Caitlin looked at the clock. We need time to move it. You have until 8. She pulled out her phone and opened their banking application. Matthew moved his chair closer. They spoke in low voices. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard enough. That account is for after this, Caitlin said. I know. We'll have almost nothing left. I know. Ask your mother to wait until tomorrow. She canceled. She can change her mind. Matthew looked at me. I didn't move. Caitlin's father asked, Can you cover it or not? Matthew looked back at the phone. Yes. Caitlin shook her head. No. We are not emptying the account because she wants to teach us a lesson. Matthew picked up the place card. What were you thinking? I already explained it. You wrote vendor. It was for coordination. She's our family. You didn't care 10 minutes ago. His face tightened. I was wrong. The room became quiet again. Caitlin stared at him. You're doing this here? You did it here." Her mother sat down at the family table and looked away. Matthew opened the agreement to the signature page. "I'm signing it." Caitlin grabbed the folder. "We should cancel the reception and tell everyone why." "What would we tell them?" he asked. "That your mother pulled the money. And when they ask why?" Caitlin didn't answer. He held out his hand. "Give me the agreement." She kept it against her chest. "We could ask my parents." Her father spoke from behind her. "No." She turned. "You said you wanted to help. I helped with what we agreed to. This is yours." His answer was calm. He didn't scold her or defend me. He simply refused to absorb the consequence. Caitlin looked around the room. Nobody offered money. She returned the folder to Matthew. He signed first. Then he placed the pen in front of her. She sat down and read the signature page. Tears dropped onto the paper. She wiped them with the side of her hand. "This is insane," she said. Matthew waited. At 7:41, she signed. They took the agreement into Jonathan's office. Caitlin's parents followed them. I remained at table 4. North Shore staff cut the cake. A server brought me a slice on a white plate. She set down a clean fork and removed the knife Caitlin had left near my place. "Can I get you coffee?" she asked. "Yes, please." The service door opened and closed behind her. People began talking again, though the room never returned to its earlier volume. A woman from the next table came over. "I'm sorry," she said. "Thank you. I didn't know. Neither did I until I saw the card." She looked toward Jonathan's office. "Is the wedding still happening?" "That is Matthew and Caitlin's decision." She nodded and returned to her seat. At 7:52, Jonathan came back into the room. He walked directly to me. "The replacement agreement has been signed. Payment has been received. So the reception will proceed?" "Yes." "Under their names?" "Matthew Day and Caitlin Graham are the clients. And my balance, 0. Your cancellation is final." The $6,000 was gone. Hearing the word final still hurt. I had accepted the cost in my kitchen, but acceptance didn't make it imaginary. "Thank you," I said. Jonathan gave me a printed confirmation. "This closes your agreement." I placed it in the blue folder. He returned to the service area and did not join the family discussion. He had confirmed the rule, carried out my instruction, and left us with what we had done. Matthew came out next. He looked older than he had an hour earlier. "It went through," he said. Jonathan told me. "We paid the whole amount." "I know. Caitlin's furious. I know that too." He pulled out the chair beside me and sat down. "I should have changed the seating." "Yes." "I should have thrown the card away." "Yes." "I should have told her you weren't serving anything." "Yes." He rubbed both hands over his face. "I'm sorry. I ate one bite of cake." He waited. "I heard you," I said. "Is that all?" "For tonight." His eyes filled again. "I just spent our savings. You spent it on your reception. Because you canceled. Because I canceled my agreement." He looked toward the family table. "I thought you'd pay no matter what happened." "I know. I thought, because you offered, it was settled. For me, too." He seemed confused by that. "I thought if I paid, I would stay close to you," I said. He looked down. "That's awful. It isn't your job to make my generosity worthwhile. It is your job not to use it as permission." He nodded slowly. Behind him, Caitlin came out of the office. Her eyes were red. She saw him sitting beside me and stopped. "Matthew, we need to leave." "The dinner isn't over. It is for me." He stood. She looked at my plate. "I hope the cake was worth it." Matthew turned toward her. "Stop." She stared at him. It was one word. He had said it after they paid, when it no longer protected the money. Still, he said it where others could hear. Caitlin walked toward the exit. Matthew followed, then stopped near the door. "Will you come tomorrow?" I was invited. That's not what I asked. "Yes, I'll come, okay?" He left. I finished my coffee. When I stood, I left the vendor card on the table. Then I changed my mind, picked it up, and placed it inside the blue folder. The next afternoon, I arrived at the Aurora Harbor room at the time printed for guests. I carried no boxes. I wore no contact badge. My name appeared correctly on the reception place card. North Shore staff handled the flowers, the welcome materials, the coffee station, and every plate of food. Nobody asked me to check a delivery. Caitlin avoided me before the ceremony. Matthew came over once, but someone called him away before we could speak. Afterward, the photographer began gathering families near the windows. I stayed beside my table. Matthew crossed the room and stopped in front of me. "Would you take a photograph with me? With you? Just us first?" He was asking. He wasn't directing me toward a marked position or sending someone else to collect me. "Yes," I said. He offered his arm. I took it. The photographer placed us near the harbor windows. Matthew stood beside me, not in front of me. His hand rested lightly against my back. After the photograph, he asked, "Can Caitlin join us?" I looked across the room. She stood with her parents, watching. Yes. She came over without speaking. The photographer took 2 photographs. Caitlin didn't touch me. I didn't pretend we were repaired. When it was finished, I returned to my table. At dinner, staff served me. When the wedding cake was cut, I remained seated until a slice arrived. Matthew and Caitlin paid professionals to do the jobs they had assigned to me. The reception continued. The room didn't collapse. Guests ate, talked, and danced. Their wedding survived self-funding. I left before the final song. Matthew followed me into the hallway. "Are you okay to drive?" "Yes." "Can I call you tomorrow?" "You can call." "Will you answer?" "That depends on what you say." He nodded. "I understand." I walked to my car alone. Jonathan emailed the final receipt the next morning. It showed my agreement canceled, my first installment retained, and no remaining balance. I printed it and put it in the locked desk drawer. The vendor card went beneath it. Matthew called after lunch. "Caitlin's here with me," he said. "All right." She spoke first. "I'm sorry about the place card." I waited. "I was angry," she continued. "You kept correcting me in front of people, and I wanted you to understand how difficult you were making everything. So the card was intentional." She became quiet. Matthew said, "Answer her?" "Yes," Caitlin said. "It was intentional." "And the cake?" "I thought if you helped, everyone would see you were making too much of the other tasks. You wanted me to prove your version. I didn't think you would cancel. That isn't an apology." I said, "I'm sorry." "You explained your intention." "You're still blaming my boundary." Her voice hardened. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing today." Matthew came back on the line. "Mom, we want to fix this. You paid for your reception." "That fixed the reception. What about us?" "That will take longer." "How long?" "I don't know." He was quiet, then he said, "I'm going to repay the $6,000. You don't have it. I'll pay in installments. Caitlin just spent her savings too." "It was our account," he said, "and repaying you is my responsibility." I heard Caitlin say something in the background. Matthew answered her. "No." I allowed it. Then he returned to me. "I'm not asking you to trust the promise." "That's good. I'll send the first payment when I get paid. We won't return to normal because money starts arriving." "I know." "Do you?" "I think I'm beginning to." I looked toward the locked desk. Until the $6,000 is repaid, contact will be limited. What does limited mean? No requests, no errands, no borrowing, no financial discussions. If you call because you want to speak to me. And visits? Ask first. Okay. Caitlin, too. She came back onto the line. "I understand." Her voice said she didn't like it. That was different from not understanding. 3 days later, a deposit appeared in my account. It wasn't a large payment. At that rate, repayment would take months. Matthew sent one message. First installment. No need to reply. I didn't reply. I opened the notebook and wrote the amount beside the date. The next payment arrived on the same day the following month. Matthew didn't call to ask whether I had seen it. He sent a receipt and one sentence. "I'll send the next one on the same date." He did. Our first real conversation happened between those payments. He called on a Sunday morning. "Are you busy?" he asked. "I'm drinking coffee. I can call later. You can talk now." He told me his truck needed new tires. I waited for him to ask whether Vernon's old tire gauge was still in the garage. He didn't. Then he asked, "How was your week?" The question sounded almost formal. It was quiet. "Did you get all that rain? I live 15 minutes from you." He laughed. It was a small laugh, but it didn't ask anything from me. We spoke for 12 minutes. Before ending the call, he said, "I'm trying not to call only when I need something." I noticed. Does it feel strange? Yes, for me too. That may be useful. He called the next Sunday as well. Caitlin didn't contact me for almost a month. Then an email arrived with my name copied at the top. She had sent it to the people from the original wedding group. I need to correct something I said before the wedding. Meredith did not withdraw from helping because of stress. I assigned her event duties without asking, and she declined them. North Shore had staff responsible for that work. My earlier message was inaccurate. She didn't mention the place card. She didn't describe the cake knife. Still, she corrected the false public version in the same public space where she had created it. I replied only to her. "Thank you for correcting it." She answered, "I should have done it earlier." 2 weeks later, she called. "I'd like to invite you to dinner," she said. "At your apartment?" "Yes." "What do you need me to bring?" "Nothing." "What do you need me to do?" "Nothing." She sounded uncomfortable, but she answered clearly. "Matthew and I are making dinner. We'd like you to come at 6 if you want to." I checked my calendar, though I already knew I was free. "I'll come." When I arrived, Matthew opened the door. Caitlin was in the kitchen stirring a pot. The table had already been set. Nothing was stacked near my chair. There were no bags waiting by the door. Matthew took my coat. "Do you want tea or water?" "Water." He brought it without asking me to help. Dinner was simple. Beef stew, bread, and a green salad. The bread was a little overbaked. Nobody apologized for it. We talked about the weather and a leak in their bathroom ceiling. Matthew described the repair estimate. He didn't ask me to contribute or call anyone. Halfway through dinner, Caitlin set down her spoon. "I want to say something about the rehearsal." I waited. I made the vendor card because I was angry. I know, I thought you were trying to take control away from me. I was controlling my own role. I understand that now. She folded her napkin once, then unfolded it. "When you stopped doing the things I asked, I wanted everyone to see you as uncooperative. I thought if I made you help with the cake, it would prove I was right." Matthew stared at his plate. Caitlin continued, "I didn't think you would refuse in front of people. I had refused in private." "Yes." Her eyes filled, but she didn't use the tears to stop speaking. "I counted on you being too embarrassed." "That's true." "I'm sorry." I took a drink of water. "Thank you for saying exactly what you did." "Can you forgive me?" "Not tonight." She nodded. The dinner continued. When it was time to clear the table, I stood automatically. Caitlin said, "Please leave it. I can carry my own plate." "I know. You don't have to." I put the plate back down. Matthew and Caitlin cleared everything. I sat at the table while water ran in the kitchen. That was harder than helping. My hands wanted a task. A task would have let me avoid the silence. Instead, I stayed seated. Before I left, Caitlin asked, "Can we invite you again?" "Yes." "Is next month too soon?" "Ask me next month." "All right." She didn't press. The payments continued. Matthew sent them before buying things he wanted. I learned this because he kept the same tires for another month. "You need safe tires," I told him during one call. "I'm getting them after payday." "You don't have to put my payment first. I said I would repay you. Don't create another problem to solve this one." He was quiet. "I can reduce the next installment." "No. Buy the tires and send the agreed amount afterward." "Are you sure?" "Yes." He bought the tires. The payment arrived 2 weeks later. He had warned me before the due date. He hadn't asked me to forgive it or loan him the difference. I wrote the new date in my notebook. Caitlin invited me to coffee the following month. Her message contained a place, a time, and one question. "Would you like to come?" There was no shopping stop attached, no request to carry anything. I accepted. Another time, she invited me to dinner on a day I had already made plans for myself. "I can't," I said. Would another day work? Not this week. All right, maybe later. She didn't tell Matthew I was rejecting her. She didn't ask what could matter more. She accepted no as a complete answer. That was one of the clearest changes. Matthew began visiting twice a month. He asked first every time. On his third visit, he stood in the hallway and looked toward the small table where he had left the house key. "I shouldn't have returned it like that," he said. "No, I wanted to scare you. I know, I wanted you to think I'd disappear. You did disappear for a while." He looked toward the desk. "Do you still have it?" "Yes. I'm not asking for it back." "That's good." He nodded and followed me into the kitchen. I made soup. He carried both bowls to the table after asking. The final repayment arrived near the end of the year. Matthew called that evening. "Did it go through?" "Yes." "That's all 6,000? "Yes." He let out a long breath. "I kept a record, too. I'm glad. Does this mean everything is normal?" "No, I didn't think so. The money closes one obligation. What remains? Time." He was quiet. "And what we do with it?" he asked. "Yes. Can Caitlin and I visit Sunday?" "What for?" "To see you. Are you bringing anything for me to store?" "No. Do you need the cooler?" "No. Tools?" "No." I almost smiled. "What time?" 2. "That's fine." They came at 2. Caitlin brought flowers. I accepted them, though I told her they weren't necessary. "I know," she said. They stayed for an hour. Matthew washed the coffee cups before leaving. Caitlin asked whether I wanted help replacing a loose cabinet handle. "No, thank you." "All right." She didn't touch it. After they left, I opened the desk drawer. The canceled agreement remained in the blue folder. The final receipt was behind it. Matthew's key sat in the small tray beside the papers. The vendor card was underneath everything. I considered throwing it away. Then I closed the drawer. I didn't need the card displayed on my desk. I also didn't need to pretend it had never existed. The next invitation came from Caitlin. "We're making dinner Sunday. Would you rather come here or should we bring it to you?" "I chose my house." She replied, "We'll bring everything. Please don't cook." On Sunday morning, I caught myself checking the refrigerator anyway. There was enough coffee. That was all I prepared. At 1:55, a vehicle pulled into the driveway. I stayed in the living room until the knock came. They had asked to visit, and I had agreed. Nobody used a key. Through the front window, I saw Matthew holding a covered dish. Caitlin carried a pot with both hands. A cloth bag hung from her wrist, probably bread or plates. They weren't early enough to rearrange my afternoon. They weren't late enough to make me wait. Matthew knocked again, gently this time. I crossed the hallway. My desk was closed. The drawer was locked. I opened my front door to Matthew and Caitlin carrying a meal they had prepared, while the vendor card remained shut inside my desk drawer.